Hey everybody, welcome to the Hang Up. It is Wednesday. My name is Matt Dillahunty. Thank you so much for joining us here on the line. I got a lot to get to. My guest tonight is Jimmy Snow, and we'll get to that. But also, apologies in advance. There's going to be some sensitive and problematic and potential triggering discussion related to sexual assault at the start of this. I just want to make people aware so that they could tune out for a minute or prepare themselves if they needed to. But it's really kind of strange. One of my former co-hosts on another program famously made a great point during one of the shows. Someone was trying to defend, their God and how they allow for freedom and for people to have the freedom to choose, only to potentially pay consequences later. And she mentioned that if you were to walk in on someone sexually assaulting a child, you would do something. So would she, and so would I, and so would any of us. Even if you're not able to personally, physically intervene to stop it, call for help. You can get other people involved. There's no way you're just like, ooh, and close the door and move on with your life. And yet, that's what a lot of people's God does. Sits there and says, I see what you're doing. Not going to do anything about it, but someday you'll pay, unless I choose to forgive you, and then you won't pay. It was a simple and powerful message, because intuitively, we tend to know what we think about injustices like rape. And it leads to some really difficult and confusing excuses where people will be sitting there saying, oh, yes, but, was it rape? Was it sexual assault? Was it sexual battery? Was it aggravated sexual assault? Was it inappropriate touching? Was this, hey, somebody had a bit too much to drink and we don't want to call it that? Was it date rape? Was it, we don't know. Oh, because if it's real rape, we've heard from the believers, God has a way to shut that shit down. So we can actually not only excuse it and deny people who are pregnant from sexual assaults, deny them access to abortion health care, because if it was really rape, God could shut that down. Just like in the Bible, if it was really rape, you would have heard the woman screaming. And anything short of that, she's probably complicit. I don't care what the distinctions are between categories of sexual assault, rape, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't matter. They're all wrong. The only difference may be in how best to react and what the consequences should be for the perpetrator. But allowing it to continue is wrong. Being complicit or supportive is wrong. It doesn't matter what they were wearing. It doesn't matter if they consented and withdrew consent. It doesn't matter whether somebody else considers it sexual assault or not. The perpetrator, it doesn't matter that they've had a hard life or that they have some rationalization or justification. That doesn't excuse their actions, and it could never excuse your inaction from interceding to stop it. This is obvious. I suspect that everybody sitting there is sitting there saying, yeah, duh, of course. You're absolutely right. They're probably not as happy about me calling out their God for sitting by and watching, but with regard to what we should do and what's morally, I would think that every decent human being on the planet would agree. That same thing should be true for other human rights violations like genocide. I understand that international foreign relations are complicated and that we have treaties in place and other agreements, but it's not complicated if you just care about what's right. This is a technical genocide that is taking place in Gaza. I'd say it's an actual genocide in any meaningful sense. A good chunk of the world is debating, is it a genocide? Is it not a genocide? And some of them are accusing you because, hey, hey, the Jews are our friends and the other people are, they're terrorists. So we're going to side with our friends over the terrorists, right? And even more excuse it because of religious reasons and Israel's place in the apocalypse that they think is coming. Now, when it comes to categorizing things, I don't know what counts as a liberal or a leftist. I think I have an idea, but a lot of people use the terms in slightly different ways. And I don't really care. The same thing is true with a distinction between socialist and some other category, or anarchist and some other I don't care. My personal positions on everything are based, whenever possible, on data and strong evidence, and on empathy and equality as a foundation where facts and data aren't readily available. So is what's happening in Gaza genocide? Who cares? It's wrong. Allowing it to continue when you could intervene is wrong. Being complicit is wrong. Supporting the attacker is even more wrong. How much more wrong can we, as the United States, get before we are simply jointly engaged in the systematic genocide of a group of people? Is it a war crime? Yes, it is. But does it matter? No, because it's fucking wrong. You'll hear phrasing like, well, they have a right to defend themselves. Whoop-de-doo! If your idea of defending yourself is to starve and slaughter the family of whoever threatened you, you're wrong. You're Kaiser Sose. And those folks that you are now an aggressor towards have a right to defend themselves. And then you have a right to defend yourselves from them, and they have a right to defend yourselves from you. And this overreaction leads to an eye for an eye, which leaves the whole world blind. And if nothing happens to de-escalate this, annihilation and genocide are the only outcomes. Two Israeli human rights groups say that Israel is committing genocide right now. Oh, there's lefty groups in Israel. Yeah, I'm sure there are. I'm sure that's what it'll get blamed on. But two Israeli human rights groups say that Israel is committing genocide. There are other national and international aid organizations around the world that agree. But it doesn't matter because it's still wrong whether you think it's a genocide or not. There is now very strong evidence of starvation and acute malnutrition. And that's two of the three criteria before we declare a famine. When we have enough deaths from malnutrition, this will be a famine. Not a natural disaster famine. A famine systematically imposed on one group of people by another. Those are the types of things that we make war crimes. We can't call it a famine yet because we don't have access to data that shows that there's enough deaths to say it's a famine, but it may already be one. And it doesn't matter because it's wrong. 20,000 kids were treated for acute malnutrition, 16 deaths. 70% of Gaza infrastructure has been destroyed. Less than 12% of the Strip is a safe zone. 500,000 people will be in a categorized catastrophic state, IPC Phase 5. 762,500 people have been displaced. 60,000 are dead, including 18,592 kids. And that's if you trust the numbers coming from Gaza Health Ministry, because we can't get data on a number of things. And even when we do, unlike Charlie Kirk, I don't trust my government. I don't trust the current lying administration to get me good information or tell me anything useful about what's going on. This is both for the Republicans and the Democrats. These are human rights abuses. These are war crimes. This is a genocide. This is approaching a famine. This is restricted humanitarian access. Because one group of people is ready to exterminate some portion of another group of people. And most of the rest of the world is sitting by, allowing it to happen, or helping it happen. Bernie Sanders wants to block arms sales to Israel. Yeah, I'd say that should definitely fucking happen right away. AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, which I view as the propaganda wing for the current Israeli government, is spreading information that is completely one-sided. And no matter how accurate it is, even with the information they're providing, it's still wrong. I have for years supported a two-state solution like Bernie Sanders does. But honestly, my position on that is shifting fairly quickly. I don't care if you want an ethno-state, you don't get one. You can't have an ethno-state or a religious state without violating basic humanitarian rules. You don't get to sit on the world stage and continue to commit atrocities and deny people access to food because you think that you deserve or have some God-given right or otherwise given right to create an ethno-state. The distractions and the whataboutism and the de facto status quo support for Israel, that has to end. The United States must intervene to halt this atrocity. And anyone who doesn't agree had better be ready to walk right up to those starving kids and the grieving parents and explain to their fucking face why they don't matter enough to protect. Anything less at this point is grossly immoral. And any person, any God or government suggesting that this is a morally correct position to continue denying aid and destroying lives is vile and disgusting in the extreme. I'm a secularist, I'm a secular humanist, I'm a skeptic, I'm an atheist. So the God arguments aren't going to be particularly compelling to me. I don't care what your God wants. If your God wants something, he can come down and do it himself instead of continually sitting back and letting his armed thugs go around impacting the world the way they are. It doesn't just apply where there's genocide, that's global. I'm a veteran. I'm someone who understands and defends the Constitution for what it is and what it's supposed to be and what is being denied. At this point, I don't think Israel deserves a country. Not the current government that's doing it. I don't know what the solution is. I don't want to take any action to stop that. But we have to stop the atrocity. We have to stop the killing. We have to stop the starving. If you're in favor of this, if you or your God is in favor of what's actually going on, the starvation and extermination of a group of people, I'd love to hear why. I can virtually guarantee you it will not go well. And I can't even imagine criteria that would get me to agree with you, but I'd still love to know why. Because I think what's happening is that most people are opposed to this, but they're too afraid to say so. I think what's happened is that when most decent people look at what's actually going on, they would say, yes, I would intervene, but I feel helpless. This is what we saw in recent interviews. Well, the Democrats don't have any power. The fuck you don't! You're not in control of the government in the United States, but you have power. Do your goddamn job. I got in an argument briefly the other day with a friend of mine that I haven't spoken to in many, many years. And he tried to do there's evil people on both sides, Matt. And, it's a difficult situation. The whataboutism and the both sidesing. He's like, I don't really want to talk about politics. I just wish they'd do enact the will of the people. That's what their job is, to enact the will of the people. No, it's not. The people are fucking stupid. And if people want to own slaves, you don't get to enact that will. And if people want to exterminate other groups, you don't get to enact that will. Their job, our representative's job, is to support the Constitution of the United States and to work with other nations to end this sort of thing, not enact the will of the people. I could give a fuck about the will of the people. I only care about what's right. If I'm wrong, show me where I'm wrong. Because my positions, as I said, are based on data and evidence. And when there isn't data and strong evidence for something, then the foundation goes back to empathy and equality. Show me where I'm wrong. I don't think you can. I don't think you will. And I think you're going to sit there and think that you have some moral high ground or some authority from God, or you really wish things were better, but you can't do anything. I get it. I don't know what else I can do other than support the right people during elections to call and protest. It's not like I can pack up and go over to Gaza myself and fix it, but I would. If ending war and poverty could be accomplished by terminating my existence, fucking kill me right now. Why is it I'm here as a godless, childless heathen willing to do more than all of these God botherers, all of these governments, and all of these proposed gods? What are any of them doing to end the destruction? Nothing, as far as I can see. And so if you think you've got a defense for it, by all means, call in. Welcome, Jimmy Snow, to Matt's Ranty Wednesday thing.
Oh, let me get my mic on. I've got it's going to seem like it's not related, but it will be. A little history thing. I wonder, have you ever heard any of the following names? There is Jake Bird, Joe Ball, aka the Alligator Man, the Cleveland Torso Murderer, and Paul Jaworski. Have you heard any of those names?
I don't think so.
These were serial killers that were active around the same time we were fighting the Nazis. And I just wonder whether or not anybody would have been like, sure, the Nazis are bad, but the Americans had some serial killers during that period of time. So there's bad on both sides. Yeah. I hate when the bad on both sides has nothing to do with addressing the point that even if there's bad on both sides, one of them's right, and it has nothing to do with the bad that's happening on that side. I think we all agree that the Americans were right against the Nazis. I hope we all agree on that. But we had serial killers at that time. So what moral high ground can Americans take over goddamn Nazis?
Yeah, it's very frustrating because it's a dodge. It's very obvious. When I was talking to my friend, and it was just a mild argument, but it was a constant, let me avoid this and let me bring up the one talking point I heard from somebody somewhere that suggests my side isn't necessarily the most problematic if we only were to focus on that one thing.
Right.
And it's like, oh, Obamacare was really good the way it was originally written, and then the Republicans and Democrats got in there and ruined it, and that's why we needed Trump to come back and rescue it back to what it originally was. It's like, to whatever extent that is true, it's completely irrelevant anyway, because wishful laws aren't fucking laws.
Yeah. When did you graduate from the Roger Ailes School of Whataboutism? Magna cum laude. Magna cum way too loud. I
MAGA
don't know.
never come again.
I had I was in a debate in VR the other night too with a person who was doing similar stuff, and one of the things I was trying to express to him was the concept of, he was defending police brutality and would give you, it was just a few bad apples. And I was like, sir, the full phrase is a few bad apples ruins the bunch. And so then I tried to explain to him this concept of systemic issues. If you're a good apple, but you participate in a system that covers for a bad apple, you have been spoiled by the bunch. Or I think it's actually the barrel. I think the phrase is barrel. Anyway, and so I shifted it because I knew the guy wasn't Catholic and I thought it would work this way. And I shifted it to look at pedophilia in the Catholic Church. We now know that that is a systemic issue that went all the way up to a pope and is probably a part of why that one pope resigned and stepped down. Absolutely, that is a systemic issue. And one of the funny things that he tried to do, instead of engaging the point at all, is like, oh yeah, oh, you know about, so the whole Catholic community are bad because of a few bad pedophiles. You're condemning all Catholics and saying they're all bad. And first of all, that was wrong. And then he goes, well, you must be very familiar. So can you name a single one of those pedophiles? Which at some point I remembered Cardinal Pell has some pretty interesting accusations out there. But at first I was like, name pedophiles, as though you aren't aware this is a systemic issue. If I can't get, well, you said you're acting like you're so familiar. And I was like, name 5 Nazis, right? You'll get Hitler. I'll give you that one. Name 4 more Nazis. Well, if you can't name them, the Nazi, and then the Holocaust didn't happen because you've not named a single Nazi. Anyway, I could have made up names. It would have worked. Father Tom. I'm positive there was a Father Tom along the way.
What you don't even have to go very far, because it's a constant parade of people in the church and in the Republican Party, et cetera, who are being tried and convicted on sexually assaulting children and stuff like that. But it reminds me, this whole, can you name somebody? Okay.
Yeah.
Name a trans female athlete in the NCAA.
Yeah.
This shit doesn't matter. This is what they end up doing. And my favorite parody of this kind of was when it came to evolution. And the creationists would be like, well, name a prominent scientist that, actually supports evolution. And so this is how Project Steve came about. And Project Steve is a list of Steves who have signed up, just scientists, just life scientists, whose first name is Steve or Stephen or Stephanie or a derivation of that. There are over 1,500 signers from life sciences whose name is Steve as of last year. That's prominent scientists who support evolution. And so it was like, oh, not only can I name one, I can name 1,500 named Steve. Here's a little checklist. Here's a little sign-up sheet right here. And that doesn't include the ones like Joe, Dave, John, all the names that are more common than Stephen. It is this, oh, I think that you're talking out of your ass and you don't actually know what's going on. And what's funny is, I think there's a good case to be made that all the people that are in MAGA, for example, and supportive, fall into one of a couple different categories. Either they are grossly uninformed or ill-informed about what's actually going on, or they are grossly confused about what ought to be going on, either because of their religious beliefs or whatever else. And so, because they all think they're right, we all think we're right. Congratulations. Every time you've been wrong, you thought you were right, and it felt exactly like being right until you figured out you were wrong. But they think everybody else is as ill-informed as they are. In this discussion that I was having, he tried to do this, well, if all you watch is MSNBC, you only get one side of stuff. And if you watch Fox News, you only get one side of stuff. And I didn't even say it, but I haven't spent any time apart from clips watching either of those in ages, but I've watched both and more independent networks and Ground News. And Ground News should be a sponsor of me. Ground News should give me millions upon millions of dollars.
They do sponsor some of the people I know they've sponsored Apologia and Vice Rhino and a few others. I don't think they're giving out millions, though.
Well, I'm different. Yeah. I'm special. Yeah. Hey, right. Ground News, give me a call. I will take your money because I use your product and I like it.
Yeah. We can't raise $1 million of revenue in a year, but surely our endorsement will.
So are you ready to I know that, well, you've got a couple of announcements we want to get to, because one of the things is there's been frustration on my part trying to get callers in who are honest and willing to address things. But we here at The Line are, in fact, a group of friends, a group of coworkers, a group of passionate people who are building a community. And yes, the community, because it started building in the midst of a pandemic as well, or growing more then. Yes, it's largely online, but with support for organizations like Recovering from Religion and all of the efforts here, we want to make sure that the people who show up, the people who are supporting us, the people who go to linemarch.com, the people who go to patreon.com/calltheline, the people who like and subscribe and join the YouTube channel are getting what they want and what they need. Whether it's me doing a rant, Jimmy doing a Trump impression. I wrote something today you should read in Trump's voice. I'll get it to you in a little bit. But
all right.
But there's a lot, and we're constantly looking for new ways. And so Jimmy has got evidently a bunch of information about Patreon and other things that we want to fill you in on. So the floor, sir, is yours.
I'll make it quick because we got some good-looking calls coming in. So as people already know, if you are at patreon.com/calltheline for $5 and up, you do get early access, or you get access to the ad-free version of our podcast. The Line is a podcast, generally hosted by myself and Alyssa when Promise returns. And we are mostly talking about news and current events and things that are going on right now, usually twice a week. There is a new tier. It starts at $15 a month. If you sign up for the $15 a month tier or above, you will now get access to something called LineCon Online Live, which is going to be the third Saturday of each month. Usually, obviously, as other events and things happen, we'll move them around, but third Saturday of each month, and it will not be a call-in show at all. What it will be is, I realized as I was structuring and I was like, oh shit, I'm pretty sure I just stole the Mormon scheduling system, how they do their Sunday services. But you know what? If it works, it works. It's going to be 3 20-minute talks, lectures from either a host from The Line. You might get Dr. Aaron Adair doing something physics related, Alyssa Lube doing something sex education related, 3 in a row, followed by a 1-hour Q&A with the 3 hosts. That only the people who are at that $15 mark and above will be able to attend live. I guess just imagine it as sort of a live event that has a $15 ticket price, but the only way to get tickets is to have paid the $15 on Patreon, but then you get all of the other stuff that comes with being a patron. And after, it'll be on a delay, but eventually those lectures will be released individually as clips to our other channels, whether it's The Line or The Line Edge. It'll depend on which one we think is the better place to put it, but that will be the new big, awesome, cool, exciting thing. The LineCon Online Live each third Saturday of the month. And we'll be having, we're currently lining up the first one. We'll be announcing who the speakers will be for our very first one. And as I said, it will be a mix of people from The Line as well as guests that we get from outside The Line. And then as we build that up, you can look forward in the future to bigger, like whole weekend events and things like that we'll do as a more traditional online convention thing, if not eventually in person a convention. But this is the very first step to LineCon coming. So that is going to, and by the way, if you are in the $5 and up tier, you will still receive the playback immediately. You won't have to wait until it all comes to YouTube. You'll get the playback of the entire event immediately after it's over. But to attend live and to participate in the Q&A and all of that, you do have to be on that $15 and a bunch. So patreon.com/calltheline. call the line. I'll bet Q&Aline.com/Patreon redirects there, but if it doesn't, I'll figure that out this week. So that's the big announcement for new things coming to Patreon. And then the second Saturday of every month, we are officially locking in the Zoom thing. So just somebody from the line with everyone on the $5, and like we did with Matt and Arden last month, $5 and above tier will be able to do just a regular Zoom hangout sort of thing with 1 to 2 hosts, not necessarily topic driven. So those are the things you want to go to patreon.com/calltheline. And if we get to 2,000 paid members, I've committed to making Zerba, but it has to be by the end of August. Zerba can become the channel mascot, and we'll replace the logo that I know will devastate everyone because everyone loves the current logo, but we will put Zerba in that logo's place. And if you don't know who Zerba is, check out our merch shop, I guess, because I barely know who he is. I just know it's going bonkers. All right, that's all I got.
All right, you ready? So we've got people calling in right now, and some of them are doing exactly what I asked, and I hope that they continue to do that. So here we go. We're going to start with Paul, pronouns they, them. Paul's a theist who says what's happening in Palestine is justified because it's in Scripture. Hey, Paul, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Really fucking annoyed. Do you think?
Okay.
Do you think that if someone rapes someone, that they should be forced to marry that person?
What does rape have to do with what we are talking about here?
You'll find out. Just answer the question.
I don't understand why you wouldn't just answer the question. It's a pretty simple, straightforward question. Hang on. I'm talking. I'm asking a question, and all will be made clear. Do you think that if someone rapes someone, that they should be forced to marry their victim? That's a yes or no question.
If they are a goyim, yes.
Okay. Thank you. So clearly, your answer to that is because that's what Scripture says, right?
Yes.
Okay.
If they're a goyim, yes.
Now, now, Paul, do you see why I asked you that question? Because I wanted to see if you were going to consistently support Scripture or if you were going to pick and choose. So now, do you understand why I asked that question?
Yes, of course.
So here's the next question. Why should anybody else in the world care what your Scripture says, and why should we think that it is morally correct just because you do?
You don't have to care about my Scripture.
I'm sorry.
You asked.
Paul. Okay, I'm going to mute you, Paul. Here's the thing. You're saying that it's justified because it's in Scripture. And my position is it's not justified whether it's in Scripture or not. And so that's why I'm asking you, why should we care what's in your Scripture?
Well, we own the land. We are there. This was promised to us. We control things, not you. Why do I care if you care?
I'm sorry, Paul. Paul, I'm not going to let someone. So, like, if someone owns their house, does that mean they get to rape kids in their house without any intervention?
No, rape kids. Why rape kids? No.
Okay. What if they're convinced that they were promised that house by their God so that they could do that?
No, no one promised that. That makes no sense.
Oh, Paul, I'm sorry. Paul, I'm sorry. I'm going to mute you again because you seem to be completely dishonest and incapable of engaging in a hypothetical. Your argument is, we own the land, we were given this land by God, and we can exterminate whoever we want. And I'm saying, if someone says, this is my house, I was given this house by God, and God says I can have sex with whomever I want in my house. Those two arguments are logically equivalent. So I'm trying to figure out why we should care about your claim to Scripture and not the person who thinks that God allows them to molest kids.
First of all, we are not exterminating. There are terrorists. You support Hamas?
I'll take him on the do you support Hamas when you're done with them.
But go ahead, Jimmy.
All right. So, Paul, first of all, do you support Hamas, Paul?
Are you crazy? crazy? They're terrorists. Do you see what happened on October 7th?
What makes them terrorists? Yeah, I know what happened on October 7th. So I'm asking you, do you support Hamas? You said no. Is that a no? Because are you crazy isn't actually an answer to the question. I'm not crazy. So do you support Hamas? No or yes?
Of course not. They killed many innocent people in our country.
Interesting.
Paul, we're asking yes or no questions. When we want more than that, we'll ask you to expand.
Yeah. So, but Paul, actually, that's where I was going. You were saying that they killed because they killed civilians. You do not support Hamas, correct?
Yes.
Great. I don't support Hamas for the same reason I don't support Israel or the IDF, because they are both terrorist organizations killing civilians. And yet you support the IDF, Paul. You seem to support the apartheid. You seem to support the colonization. And you seem to think because some old book told you get to, which, by the way, you won't even find much scholarly consensus that was what the book was actually promising you. But even if it did, you think that because you're promised it, your killing of civilians, your killing of innocent people, of children, of babies. We're literally getting to see live videos of emaciated babies that look like skeletons with the skin barely hanging on. But that's okay because your terrorists are doing it. But those terrorists are bad. And by the way, while I don't support Hamas as an organization specifically because they went after civilians, if Hamas was purely a military resistance group using violent force to resist their occupation, then I would support it. It is only the only reason why, well, no, it's not the only, but the main reason why I don't support them is the fact that they go after civilians. And yet, I'm waiting for you, Paul. You will now be given the opportunity. Will you condemn the IDF in Israel for their absolute mistreatment and genocide of the civilians of Gaza?
We don't genocide no one.
Yes, you do.
Hamas uses them.
Yes, you do. Are you going to condemn the killing of civilians by the IDF?
See, Paul, you've got to answer the question we ask, because you are now in an absolutely no fucking spin zone. And so what Jimmy asked is if you would condemn what IDF is doing to civilians in Gaza, would you do that? Would you condemn that?
Condemn what? They used their civilians against themselves.
Paul?
I do not condemn IDF. I condemn Hamas.
Okay.
They kill innocents.
Then you are a terrible person because you refuse to condemn people who are killing and starving innocent civilians. And now you're a fucking hypocrite because the very reason that you wouldn't... they're not innocent.
They're all terrorists. They're all terrorists.
The 18,592 kids are all terrorists?
They will be terrorists when they get older and kill us. Yes, of
they
course.
Will. So you know the future, and you are now justified in slaughtering people because you suspect what their future will be. What do you think makes them more likely to be terrorists? Killing their friends before
the Jews have one state. The Arabs have many states.
I don't give a shit if the Jews have zero state. I'm not talking about Israel or Jews. I'm asking about what's right. Is it right for the IDF to starve out civilians in Gaza? And you say yes.
No, we send food. We give them millions of dollars of food.
In the same way, in the same way that you'd like, in the same way that you'd like to say Hamas uses those civilians as protection, the government of Israel uses idiots like you to protect them and shield them from the consequences of their inhumane actions.
Hey, Paul, is it a terrorist?
Years, everybody always hit the Jews.
Stop. Is it a terrorist action to put a gun in a young man's hands and force? So like with Hamas, if Hamas goes and takes a young man and hands him a gun and says, "You will fight for us or else there will be penalties." Is that a bad action? Is Hamas committing a human rights violation and in a way using a civilian as a human shield by forcing them to fight on behalf of Hamas? Can we agree that would be fucked up?
They do this. We see that all the time.
And you know who else does that? And guess, Paul, how do you fall for every trap I lay so easily? Hey, Paul.
You fell for one of mine, too.
Hey, Paul, is IDF service mandatory or voluntary?
No, of course, but if you are
no. Answer the question: is it mandatory or is it voluntary to be in the IDF?
It is mandatory, like here in America.
And
it's mandatory.
No, sir. No, sir, Paul. No, sir. It's not mandatory.
You will be drafted if there's war.
Yes, you can be drafted. You can be drafted, but IDF, it's not just a draft thing. You have to serve. Everyone has to serve. Right?
At what age does population? At what age?
I don't give a shit. Hang on. Stop talking and listen to me, because you are grossly immoral and dishonest. So right at the beginning, when I compared this to rape, and I said it doesn't matter how rough of a life the rapist had, that doesn't excuse their action. And you want to cite the thousands of years of history of Israel. That does not excuse this action. Nothing in the past excuses these actions. What excuses these actions is people like you just asserting that you have a right to kill people and starve them. And you are fucking wrong. And we should destroy any government or terrorist organization that is doing what IDF is doing right now.
Yeah, you want to talk about civilians being used as human shields. Conscription into the IDF begins at 18 years old. And you want to say at times of war, and yet it was immoral when Palestine and Hamas, where you're saying they're doing it, that they're saying, hey, those guys shooting missiles at us, those guys shooting bullets at us, those guys killing a 6-year-old boy who walked 12 kilometers to get the scraps of food that was left, and on his way away from receiving that aid, the IOF killed him and his family, the women and the children around him. That's all. It's bad when they go, hey, we need to do whatever we can, including violence, if it resists the continuing killing of our people. And if they arm their young people, well, they're using human shields. But we don't talk about how mandatory service in the IDF, putting a gun in a young man, and voluntarily, I believe it's voluntary potentially for women. I think there's service you still have to do, but as far as fighting in combat, I know that there's a difference with the gender, going up. Maybe it's the cutoff age might also be younger. So you're sitting there and you're saying when they do it, it's wrong, but when we do it, we're not terrorists because we feel a holy we are entitled to it. But by the way, we only have the one nation state, they have multiple. Well, Paul, no matter how many houses you ever buy, at the moment anyway, if you own a dozen houses, I don't get to just come take one because I don't own any.
You guys, you believe the news. You guys don't know what happens over there. I have family there. Okay, you believe
Sir,
the news.
The war is being live streamed. This is an old tactic. You're so full of shit. We can see it for ourselves.
I'm sorry, sir, but you're saying that what's happening there is justified because of Scripture, and I'm saying that any human or God that justifies this is an immoral monster that deserves to be opposed and annihilated.
That's because you don't believe God. You don't.
Correct.
Even believe
I don't believe in a God. Correct. And you don't get to use your belief in a God to justify your action any more than anybody else does, which is not at all.
Mm-hmm. No matter who is in the conflict, if they're citing God as their motivation's wrong.
Correct.
Well, God protects the state of Israel. That's why we stay strong.
Really? God protects the state of Israel. That's why you get to pretend like they've been the victims for thousands of years?
Why did God
We have been victims.
Why did God let Netanyahu...
I agree with you. I agree with you, but you're so stupid you keep falling into the same trap. When I said you pretend that Israel's been the victim, you say you have been. And I would agree with you. But that's in conflict with your notion that God protects Israel. There is no evidence ever that any God has given two fucks about Israel or anyone else. This is just your rationalization to kill people you don't like.
It's wild that God didn't have Netanyahu.
I don't give a fuck what Scripture says.
It's wild that God didn't.
There is no reason for us to care what your Scripture says any more than there's reason for you to care what a Muslim Scripture says.
It's wild that the God protected Israel, that Netanyahu wasn't inspired by God to increase the protection when before October 7th happened, considering October 7th was a predictable disaster, that their intelligence absolutely knew it was coming. And it's almost suspicious the level to which he did nothing about it. It's weird. It's weird that October 7th could have happened in a God-protected Israel. It's very strange indeed.
Are you an Israeli citizen, Paul?
Happened here in this country too.
Yeah, God's not not protecting any of the countries, you moron.
Yeah. I literally just explained that there's no evidence that any God has given two shits about anybody, Israel or otherwise, and you just came up with another example proving me right. I need people who are going to call in to prove me wrong. If you're just calling in to keep proving me right and show that you are grossly immoral and willing to advocate for genocide and slaughter of innocent people just so that you can eliminate the people who... It is genocide. It is technically genocide by a number of different organizations, including two different Israeli humanitarian organizations. But I don't give a shit.
They could leave
I don't
the
care
country.
if you...
We don't want them here.
I'm still talking. I'm still talking, and I'm going to keep talking, and then you get to talk. That's how this works. So just sit there patiently while I continue to school you on morality. Whether or not you or any other country or nation or United Nations or anything else thinks something is genocide is irrelevant if it is morally wrong. Is it morally wrong to target and starve innocent civilians during war? Yes or no?
Yes, but we don't do that.
No, there's no but. There's no fucking but to this, Paul. It's a yes or no question. It's either morally permissible or it is not morally permissible. So I would like you to say either it is morally permissible to kill civilians and kill and starve civilians, or it is not morally permissible to kill and starve civilians. Pick yours.
It's not. I agree. But that's not what we are doing.
No, it is what you're doing. It is what every organization that has it. No, it's absolutely what's happening. Well, not you, because you live in Colorado. You're not the Israeli government, but the Israeli government is actively engaged in starving and killing civilians. And when I asked you about the 18,000 kids, you were like, well, they will be terrorists. And will be means currently they are innocent civilians by your own admission. You're just anticipating that they won't be innocent in the future. You should be completely fucking ashamed of yourself. And if there's a God that agrees with you, that God is a disgusting pile of fucking vomit.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but that's what
I'm sorry,
my
you're a
family has to go through.
sympathizer.
They live there. You don't live in Israel.
I'm not sorry I feel that way. You know why? Because my position is about humanity. My position is about equality. My position is about equity. My position is about empathy. Your position is one of smug superiority and victimhood, where you want to say, oh, I'm sorry you don't agree that I get to kill the people who I just acknowledged it would be immoral to kill. I don't believe you're real, Paul. I think you're a lying troll who called in to get some stuff. And one of the reasons I think that is because despite the fact that you keep... What's that?
I actually do think he's real. I've heard... I suspect he is real. You could be right, but...
fake, but...
Because I would prefer to not think that human beings can be as grossly immoral and corrupt and vile and repugnant.
You don't care about the thousands of Jews that were killed.
I do care about the thousands of Jews that were. I do care about the thousands of Jews that were killed, which is one of the reasons why I agreed that they had a right to go after the individuals who perpetrated that. But you don't get to wholesale cut off an entire community and then just say, well, they're either terrorists or they will be terrorists or they're terrorist sympathizers or everything else. I'm sorry that you don't understand basic human decency. I'm sorry that your religion and your victimhood has poisoned you to actually being an empathetic, caring individual. But my position is based on let's not allow people to continue to target civilians and children in the name of anything. I don't give a fuck about your God.
You don't live in Israel. You don't know how it is over there.
I don't live Israel. I don't live in Israel, and I don't believe in the God that you're advocating for. And I don't, if your God has a problem with me, your God can come fucking talk to me. But I need people to give a reason why this is justified that isn't because my special man in the sky told me it was. What is there any reason? Is there any reason other than Scripture that it's okay?
Of course, we defend ourselves. We can't defend ourselves.
I'm still
that
fucking
6-year-old
talking.
was coming right for you.
Is there any reason other than Scripture that it would be okay to target and starve civilians?
No, it won't be justified.
No.
But you keep.
And you know what? No. We're done, Paul. Thank you. You've acknowledged that it's immoral. You've acknowledged that outside of Scripture there isn't a justification for this. And you've acknowledged that even with Scripture, that what they're doing is still wrong, and yet you want to excuse it. You are the problem with the world. You, your holy book, the government that you prefer, the thugs that you've sided with, you are the problem with the world. You are hatred. You have been a victim, and the people that you love have been victims, and you've allowed that hate to fester until you are like Kaiser Soze, and you won't just go after the people who did it. You'll go after the people who owe them money. You'll go after the people who are their family. You'll go after their kids. You are a vile, disgusting, inhuman individual, and so is your God and your Bible. And if Jimmy has anything to add here, that's fine, and I will even give you the final word. Because you're doing such a bad job of defending this, there's no work left to be done.
I don't have much as far as hang on, I'm not done. I don't have much as far as a back and forth to go. Just to point out a couple of things. One, you cried out falsely that we don't care about the innocent Jews that were killed. Of course we do. Not only do you not care about the many more innocent Palestinians who have been killed now and before the conflict even began, when they were in your open air prison, you have expressed your endorsement of their death and used a sort of eugenic style. They're not innocent. They are born guilty, essentially, sort of creating this almost genetic idea that these people are inferior to you from birth and therefore born guilty and not worthy of everything. So there's a lot of irony there because we actually give a shit about both because both are humans. You not only don't give a shit about one, you actually endorse the murder and slaughter, and despite the fact that you won't use the genocide of the other. You also, when Matt was talking about the organizations in Israel, which have condemned this as a genocide, that they are heading for famine, that this violence is not warranted, not justified. Your statement was they can just leave. We don't want them here. Yeah, the Nazis also probably would have liked any human rights groups that were pro Jew removed as well, because that does get in the way of their genocide. But again, an ironic statement, because you know who can't leave are the people in your open air prison, who you are not allowed. Palestinian civilians, Palestinian children, Palestinian women, Palestinian boys, Palestinian men who have no Hamas association. None of them can leave, and in fact get slaughtered even when doing a task like trying to pick up food when they are emaciated from hunger. You are not just amoral, you are immoral. And I hope you will put in the work to become a better person, because right now you are the one who has fallen for propaganda of the genociders while trying to accuse others of propaganda. The war is being live streamed, buddy. It's not that hard to find the information.
No, oh, you're a liar. We did let you speak and say your point. We asked you questions. You gave us answers, and we pointed out why your answers are insufficient and immoral. But as I said, you fucking liar, I told you that I would give you the last word. Didn't you hear me say that? Did you hear me say that?
Yes, I did.
Yes. So you heard me say that I was going to give you the last word, and you still decided to accuse me of not letting you say your piece. Why are you a fucking liar?
I'm not lying. I can't talk at all.
You are lying. You are actively fucking lying, because you're saying that we're not going to give you the ability to state your mind when you flatly fucking acknowledge that I already told you I would give you the last word. So answer my question. Why are you a fucking liar?
That's what kind of question is that? All I'm going to say is I have family there in Israel. You guys don't know how it is over there. No,
hang on. You don't get your last word yet. I'm still waiting for you to answer why you're fucking lying and whether or not
Matt,
you're also lying, and whether or not you're also lying about the scriptural justification.
I'm not lying. The scripture is there. You can read it, Matt. And I know you have.
I don't. No. That's not what I'm saying. This is so confusing. You are a terrible person and a terrible liar. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give you your chance to say your piece in your last words ever on my show.
I won't call back, Matt, but I have family.
No, it won't matter if you do call back. I'm going to block your number. The issue here is, would you like to state your piece like I said you could, yes or no?
Yes.
Go for it.
Okay, I have family there back home. You guys don't know what they go through and have to deal with Hamas and the terrorists that come from the West Bank and kill. We are just defending. This is the only Jewish land that we have, and we are just defending ourselves. We want peace. There's millions of Arabs that live with us in Israel, and they have perfect, normal lives. There's no apartheid. They could become judges. They could work their way in the system. But the people from Hamas and the West Bank, we want them out. And that's all I'm going to say here. And we're just defending ourselves. We had family killed, babies
You're
beheaded.
A liar.
And you guys
You're a liar. You're a liar.
Mainstream news in
Bibi
America.
Netanyahu is a fucking war criminal and a monster. And you're a liar. And you don't know how to argue on behalf of this because you say, we don't have family there. How do you know that?
Because if you did, you wouldn't be speaking the way you do. You would be.
You're a liar there. So no. I'm asking you questions, and now I'm going to school you like the little lying baby that you are. First of all, I told you that there are a number of multiple humanitarian organizations in Israel that are saying Israel is committing a genocide, which means there are people living there now who are saying that they're committing a genocide, which means your assertion that if we had family there, we would not be saying this. Maybe our families are the ones that are actually decent human beings who are willing to recognize a genocide. However, whether or not we have family there is irrelevant to whether or not what's happening is immoral. So you've presented a completely irrelevant red herring that is also demonstrably false. Then you say, it's your only land. Who cares? That doesn't justify what's happening. Then you say, you want peace. Curiously, you don't seem to be doing anything about peace. You seem to be supporting the slaughter and the starvation of individuals who are civilians, and that is not how you go about peace. There's no apartheid Hamas there, except that you want.
It's over. The war is over. Hamas
what part of you're done fucking talking on my show did you not comprehend? You lying, fraudulent apologizer for genocide. You're done speaking on my show. I'm now lecturing you like the lying little child you are, because you could not come up with an evidence-based argument. You could not even present something that wasn't fallacious. You just say, well, it's the only land we've got, and we've had to put up with so much there that we want them out. Well, too fucking bad. I got neighbors down the block that I would prefer move out. Doesn't mean I get to take any particular action with respect to them. You have no idea which of us have family there, but your excuse of if you had family there, you wouldn't hold this position is obviously demonstrably false by the fact that there are people in Israel agreeing with us. And yes, some of them are family of people close to me. You are here rationalizing. You fundamentally know, and you fundamentally admit that what's happening here would be wrong in any other circumstance, but you are now engaged in special pleading to say, oh, but this is the land that God gave us, and these are the people who have accosted us over the time, and let me just come up with all of the little excuses. You're like the kid that got caught with the hand in the cookie jar, and you're like, but I was never allowed to have cookies before, and I didn't get to do this, so I get to do whatever I want. You're a fucking child, and so is Israel. Oh, you hung up. That's fine. You weren't going to get to talk again anyway.
For the record,
if you're going to come and say,
oh, go on. I thought you were done.
If you're going to come in and say this is justified, you need to come up with a justification that applies pretty much universally. You can't just say, I mean, there's functionally no difference between saying Israel is justified in what they're doing because God says so, than Hamas saying they're justified in what they're doing. There's no functional difference there. And when you say, well, we want peace, but we want Hamas gone. Well, Palestinians want peace. They just want Israel gone. Oh, no, you're siding with them. No, I'm not siding with either of them. I'm siding with innocent people. I'm siding with civilians. I'm siding with humanitarian efforts that are attempting to abate the destruction, the systematic destruction that Israel is engaged in. When this started, I was on Israel's side. That Israel had a right and a duty to go after Hamas for what they've done. And Israel did that and failed and fucked it up and slaughtered and made excuses and took inhumane steps to try to achieve their goal, because their goal is no longer punishing the people who did it and preventing them from doing it again. Their goal is the extermination of anyone who they think is remotely closely associated with Hamas, which makes all of those people inspired to be more likely to continue the conflict and seek the destruction of anyone and everyone who even remotely agrees with Israel's action. It is bizarre to me that you can only see this from one perspective, the one where you're right. You're fucking wrong, and you're immoral, and you're advocating for slaughtering and starving kids and civilians. You and your God can go fuck yourself. Jimmy, I know you had something to say. Sorry, I was in the middle of it.
Oh, I was just going to say, there was the, oh shoot, what was it? Well, first of all, if people want to know what fallacies the guy committed, there are two. It could be appeal to experience, though this one's a little bit indirect because it's not his experience. It's the trust me of the person I know who has the experience. Or there's a specific ad hominem fallacy called a circumstantial, the ad hominem circumstantial fallacy, which is essentially that you're not qualified because you don't have the background that I approve of, which it's funny because he's also not there. So he had to move it a step away. And what I almost interjected with when he was making that accusation is I could easily say your point is invalid because you don't have any family in Palestine. You don't have any family in Gaza. So now you don't know what's really going on there. This is why these are fallacies, because you can just flip them and they work for whatever side, so they don't actually point to anything useful. And it's not the actual point at hand. Paul, you're kind of a piece of shit. And I hope that you will stop supporting the terrorist organization and condemn them one day.
Yeah.
I love though they use civilians as body shields. You literally conscript children to fight in your military. Okay.
And the Israeli government is using people like you as a shield to shield them from consequences. The de facto, we must protect Israel. That's what you're doing.
And not to mention, there are military bases and what would be military targets in Israel, right next to schools and synagogues and churches, all kinds of things. And that's literally what they say is Hamas using human shields. So it's almost everything they accuse Hamas of, Israel has some version of it. They do.
And it's funny too, because to whatever extent someone uses a human shield, it's because they fundamentally understand that no decent person takes the shot unless there is no other option. I forget which action movie it was where they're like, shoot the hostage. And they're telling the police to do that. Just shoot. Oh, you can go through the shoulder and kill him and blah, blah, blah. People use human shields because decent people have to at least think twice or three times before figuring out how best to deal with that. That's why they get used as human shields. That doesn't mean that your action of taking out and starving and beating the human shield is justified. It's specifically unjustified, which is why they do it. But you've just had enough now. I don't care anymore. Fuck them. They're all terrorists or they're all going to be terrorists. No, you're the terrorist. You are advocating terrorizing. I'm at a baffled. Yeah, I get it. Outside of scripture, we're probably not going to get a call on this, but
Amir, that child who was somewhere between 6 and 10 years old, carrying that box of scraps back for his family because he was emaciated, he was carrying the box very terroristically. So, they had to kill Amir because what are they going to do? By the way, there's some interesting things in the chat, which it's almost, I could take both sides of I could argue that the Bible does endorse what's happening in Palestine or doesn't endorse, not necessarily directly with the revelation way is a dumb way, but that God can basically tell its chosen people to genocide people. He's full of those. Anyway, the polls split up in a bunch of different ways, and 3% of people of 900 votes, which means there should be 30 of you on the line right now, and yet there isn't. 3% said yes, they will call and defend that God endorses what's happening in Palestine. Maybe it is just that when you defend Israel, you have to be a liar. So that's why so far, all of that 3% are liars so far, because we asked that after the one guy was already on the phone. Maybe that's the only way to, or maybe the calls, they're just getting ready to call. I don't know.
I have a list of Bible verses that are often used, either interpreted to apply to the situation or seem to directly apply to the situation, like the one in Zephaniah that mentions Gaza specifically. And it's not the only one. Zephaniah, Zechariah, there's a passage in Amos, there's a passage in Ezekiel, there's a passage in Jeremiah. These things are seen as prophecy surrounding end times, even though that's the Christian take on it. It was a different view of prophecy with regard to messianic prophecies and the restoration of Israel from a Jewish perspective. It doesn't impress me or surprise me that there are people who are like, yes, but the Bible seems to support this. Yeah, and the Bible, as I pointed out, supports a rapist being forced to marry the rape victim. I don't care what the Bible supports. The Bible is obviously demonstrably false on some factual claims, grossly immoral on many moral claims. And while it may be right on some things, the litmus test for whether or not the Bible is right is not because it's in the Bible. The litmus test is because it's right. See, people do this with regard to science frequently too, which is a reminder that tomorrow night Skeptalk will be on. And that's a show where we deal with science and pseudoscience and everything else. But people are like, oh, science is always changing. Yeah, but what demonstrates changes in science is more and better science and more and better science findings. Oh, well, but science got this wrong. Yeah, no, science didn't get it wrong. People got it wrong. We reached conclusions based on insufficient information, and then we modified and changed them. Okay, well, you just believe it because it's in a science book. No, I don't. That's where we're different. See, you believe that it's morally justified because you think it's in your holy book. I don't believe that something is true because it's in a science book. I believe it's in a science book because you can go find the evidence, and it's the evidence that demonstrates that the findings of science are true. Avogadro's number isn't true, isn't accurate just because that's what the book says. The book can have a typo. Avogadro's number is whatever it is. The gravitational force is whatever it is, irrespective of what a science book says. All science books are doing is serving, in computer language, as a pointer to the best current evidence and information. That's what science is doing. Religion is not in any way pointing to any evidence that could be considered the best and most reliable. They're not updated. They're pointing to antiquity. They're pointing to bias. They're pointing to bigotry. They're pointing to superstition. They're pointing to people whose view of the world was that you could breed sheep and produce different patterns by what they stared at it when they were having sex.
If only. Wouldn't it? I mean, it's kind of building on what you're saying. It is interesting that we never address that anybody who believes that Israel is rightfully theirs and then starts saying because of these promises, and I don't mean this broadly, like I wouldn't say this just about someone because they believed in Jesus, but if you are quoting Abraham or Moses, aren't you in the same category as young earth creationists, even if you somehow don't become young earth creationists, as the flat earthers, because you are actually sitting and saying some of this mystical history that we now know isn't true. If you utter the phrase Amalek, or how do you pronounce it? Amalek, when justifying Palestine, you're quoting something that happened during the story of Moses and the Exodus, which we now know did not happen. It's not a matter of like, what were the details of back then? The Hebrew enslavement by the Egyptians in the story of Exodus is purely a story. Abraham is not an actual historical figure that ever existed, nor is Adam and Eve. Like these are well debunked. This to think that these were literal things that happened that you can claim stake on is the same level of science denialism, at the very least, as young earth creationism, if not flat earthism, if that's an ism in and of itself. But we don't really address that side of it, how anti-scientific and how much mystical nonsense a person is bringing up if they are daring to cite Abraham or Moses.
Yeah, I don't think it necessarily puts them in the same category as flat earthers, because there are interpretations of the Bible that don't get to flat earth or young earth and all that stuff. But I get your point, and it's generally right that, if this is going to be your source material, you're already on shaky ground no matter what your conclusion is, because it's about interpretation. By the way, we're going to get some other calls here in just a second. Somebody in chat asked if Harris could have stopped this, and I'm like, how is that relevant to any of it? I mean, even Marjorie Taylor Greene has come out and said this is a fucking genocide. This isn't about what would the Republicans do, what would the Democrats do. This is about what are people willing to do right now? What is the United States government willing to do? The Democrats are just as shitty on this, by and large, as the Republicans. As a matter of fact, there's probably a pool of Democrats and a pool of Republicans who aren't shitty on this, and everybody else is just degrees of shitty on this. We're putting me in a position where I wind up agreeing with Marjorie Taylor Greene, which makes me once again doubt whether or not reality is real.
I will say I wish, and maybe no one's brought this to you yet, I wish Forrest had posted it earlier and I almost called him. I wish our side would stop saying that, because it is very likely that we don't agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene, that her motivations are anti-Semitism and ours are not. That there are going to be people who opportunistically hate Jews. Right. And people who hate Jews also will call it a genocide. And I don't want to, it's one of those ones that I just wish our side wouldn't say. I think we should say like, hey guys, the anti-Semites are showing up. Let's kick them out of our party so we're not at a Nazi party. Because that point's been made a lot in the last 24 hours, and it makes me. I have no way
of knowing if Marjorie Taylor Greene calls it a genocide because it's a genocide, or because she calls it a genocide because she's anti-Semitic. And largely, I don't care, because the statement I agreed with is that it's a genocide. If Marjorie Taylor Greene says the sky is blue because she hates Jews, she's still right, and I still agree with her on what color the sky is. But yes, point well made.
I would be unable to ever not bring up the because she hates Jews part, I guess, is my thing, is making sure that.
Yeah, except that I don't know that that's true for her. Except that I don't know that that's true for her, so I don't get to bring it up.
I suppose it's, while we can't know her mind, I think we can know her actions, and the Jewish space lasers isn't the isolation of her Jewish conspiracies. So I think it can be reasonably deduced.
If only they had space lasers, maybe they could target actual Hamas perpetrators and not civilians.
Yeah, there's no hurricanes in Gaza, so they can't control the weather like you think they can in Marge.
So Ben's calling from Alabama. Ben's an atheist that wants to ask a question. So Ben, you're on with Jimmy and Matt.
Hey guys. Yeah, my question was, I guess in your experience, do you find it productive to drill down with people who've got non-rational beliefs to find out what they mean by an idea being true?
Sometimes.
Not very often.
A lot of, As I know, like sometimes when I hear people, it's like I want to know, well, what's behind this belief of yours that seems to have absolutely no backing? Like what do you think it means for an idea to actually?
That has nothing to do with what. Real? That has nothing to do with how they define the word true. That's asking for their justification, which is what we literally do every time. What do you believe, and why do you believe it? I don't need to get into what they think is. So this is why I ask people if they care about what's true, and then we can have a side discussion on the philosophical definition of truth. Like, oh, I'm going to go with truth as that which comports to reality, but how do you verify what, you get into all these side discussions. And that's why I don't find it particularly useful most of the time, because the overwhelming majority of people colloquially use the word true, meaning actually real. This is the state of affairs. That's how almost everybody means it in almost every circumstance. And so if they're saying there's a God, I don't need to say, well, please define truth, since you're going to claim it's true that there's a God. All I need to know is, why do they believe it's a God? Why do they believe a God's there? Because if their argument is fallacious and isn't supported by evidence, then they're irrational, whether their claim is true or not. It's entirely possible that it could be true that there's a God, and nobody has a rational justification for it. That is not a state of affairs that is necessarily impossible.
I think it would be interesting, and I think it might be more to the spirit of the question you're asking. Maybe I'm wrong, but at some point, I assume we'll be able to, with a simple tool, scrape the data of our entire channel. I assume with AI, it'll read the transcript of every single episode, identify things. I could probably manually do a version of this myself, though a massive database for scraping would be expensive to do. But it would be interesting to query that database and say, what most often do the hosts have to request the callers define to be able to get any further? I'm guessing the word true is very, very low on the list. And even when you brought it up, all I did was have, flashbacks to Jordan Peterson talking to that one guy on that terrible YouTube channel. And he asked him, do you believe in Christianity? Well, what do you believe? And he said, you accept it as true. That's circular reasoning. You haven't added anything to the word believe, was what he said in response to it, which is not correct. You could then say you don't know what those follow-up words mean. And then he said you only believe something if you will stake your life on it, was his. And then when asked if he would save his family by lying about the pen of a color, he wouldn't answer that question. A pen was a certain color, he wouldn't answer. So that's what I think of when people start to define things. They can do it in good faith because they see something is breaking down, or they suspect an equivocation fallacy is happening, or they can do it to be terribly pedantic. And I'm going to guess that when the word true comes in, because most people have a colloquial understanding, that probably is more often a pedantic exercise than it is a debate exercise of any usefulness anyway.
Okay. Yeah, I guess because I'm probably asking because my definition of true and my criteria for determining if something is true is kind of the same thing, which it's just
I'm confused.
Well,
how can your definition and the I don't know. So criteria, What is your definition of truth, and how is it a criteria?
Well, I define it as it's the label that I slap on an idea when that idea reliably predicts cause and effect or makes predictions. And I think that kind of tells you how I demonstrate it. That's like baked into my definition.
Yeah, I don't know that it does tell me.
Oh,
I mean, well, I get that it perhaps comes close to, but I mean, it seems like what you're saying is truth is that which we can demonstrate, but that's not a good definition of truth, because something may be true whether you can demonstrate it or not. So instead, you're talking about what it is rational to believe is true. Like, it could be true that there's a turd that is green on Mars that is shaped exactly like Donald Trump's head. I have no reason to think that it's true. I have no way to investigate and find out that it's true. And we may be forever barred from finding out if it is true or was true. But that's completely separate from whether or not it is true or was true.
Okay, so true could be a property something has regardless of your thoughts about it, is what you're saying?
Yes, truth is completely independent of our thoughts.
Right, yeah.
Like,
I think he might be going down
in my
some of the
backyard,
philosophical routes.
I sent you something in Messenger chat, Jimmy, but
Sure.
So 10 miles from where I'm sitting right now, in some direction, there is a piece of ground that nobody has excavated more than 93 feet. So nobody's ever investigated that particular spot of ground beyond 93 feet. It may be true that at 94 feet, there's a gold deposit, but we may never find it, and we may not have any reason to believe it, but it's true nonetheless. That's independent from whether or not we have good reason to think it's true.
I most often adopt the colloquial definition, which is just simply that which is consistent with reality is true. But there are, I believe, 5 philosophical definitions of truth. I only can remember pragmatic theory off of my top of my head. Then there's like consumthingvist theory. There's a bunch of them, but I stick with the colloquial, consistent with reality.
Yeah. But anyway, I appreciate that, Ben, because you have a definition of truth that you hold that is consistent with your criteria, but what you seem to be there is defining not what is true, but what can be said to be true rationally, or what can rationally be said to be true.
Yeah, because I can't say anything about things that are true independent of what I think, which a lot of people
I agree.
do.
So that's the thing, is I can talk about whether or not a position is rational based on all the information I have and the criteria and methods that we can use to investigate it. I can make a statement about that. We may not actually have access to, for lack of a better phrase, capital T truth at all, because we don't have the solution to the problem of hard solipsism. I don't know whether or not the reality I'm investigating is in fact real. So all I can say is that within the reality I experience, this has all the hallmarks of being true. This is apparently the way this reality works, whether it's an ultimate reality or not.
Yeah, I'm excited for the next call.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, I might be pushing this along. I'm trying to give a hint there, Ben, but the next call is one of my favorite topics, and I think I know what the caller's getting at. But anyway, Ben, did you have any other questions?
It's just that when somebody proposes an idea to me, I ask myself, like, does it make a prediction? Does it successfully make a prediction? And then I might be inclined to call it true. Otherwise,
I feel there are so many things that, like, I think it's true my dog loves me more than anything, but I don't know what kind of predictions I can make out of that.
Yeah, I mean, their behavior, I guess, but yeah. All right,
he could hate me, but he knows he's getting the food. And now, look, do we now have a cat that I know is doing that? Yeah. So the cat pretends to love me for food. it's very clear that that's what's going on. But anyway, the dog's way better than the cat because dogs are better than cats. All right. Well, thank you, Ben.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Cool. So we have a call we're going to go to here in just a minute, but other than that, lines are open. We are always going to have priority for theist calls. You don't have to call in about the Israel-Gaza thing. You could call in about the Epstein thing. I made a bit of a prediction today because I've been watching what's actually been happening. Every time Trump tries to deflect away from the Epstein files. And I mean, at this point, you have to be a particularly special kind of idiot to not realize that Trump is in those files. Because I mean, that's already been expressly acknowledged by Pam Bondi and the FBI and him. Then when you listen to what he says, I don't know, Jimmy, did you want to do it or not?
Sure.
So I'm like,
this is my impression of someone trying not to sound like a pedophile.
Yes, sir, about the Epstein files.
Obama, bad. Biden, bad. Windmills, bad. Tariffs, good. I can party Gillade if I want to. I never had the pleasure of going to the island. Epstein hired an underage girl from my spa. I mean, I never forgave him for poaching my sweet young girls. I mean, he stole her and she had no complaints about us, but they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, but her emails and Hunter's laptop, and I haven't thought about it. Why don't you just thank me, you nasty woman? Say thank you, and I've only forgotten to mention Comey.
Yeah.
That's all I felt was missing.
Yeah. It is bizarre to watch him do this absolutely cringeworthy tap dance. And the thing is, Trump is an idiot. And I say that in the most accurate and meanest way possible. He is genuinely stupid. He runs around, oh, these are low IQ people. No, sir. You are low IQ people. People have been lying to you. They've been giving you fake tests. Woman, person, man, camera, TV. Well, cool. Congratulations. I can still do it too. But this is what happens when a child doesn't know they've been caught. Donald, did you have your hand in the underage cookie jar? No, mommy. No, mommy. I don't know anything about it. If you listen to what the reporter posted, they asked him about Virginia Jeffrey and saying basically, hey, what happened with Epstein? And he's like, well, I don't want to talk about it, but what ended up happening is, he stole some people from my spa. He hired away these employees. And so they're like, was one of those employees Virginia? And he's like, no, I don't, I think she worked at the spa there. I think so. And, she didn't have any complaints about us. But what that means is his friend, the convicted child rapist, came and hired away an underage girl that was working at Trump's spa at Mar-a-Lago. Now, why? And why did this in particular piss Donald off? But what is it about this betrayal that, a teenage girl that might have been working a summer job at a spa gets hired away by Epstein? Either he was mad that he stole one of his pets, or he knew what Epstein was like and knew that this was going to continue getting him in trouble and was opposed to it on those grounds. I don't know. But I can tell you this. When he said yesterday or the day before, I think it was, that he was asked if he would pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell has said that she will testify in front of Congress, but she will only do so on the grounds that she's granted full immunity for any new crimes that come out as a result of that testimony, and will only do it after the Supreme Court offers a decision on her appeal. That won't happen until the fall, but that she would testify sooner if she got a pardon. And Trump said, essentially, that not that he was going to pardon her, but that he could. I'm allowed to.
Yeah.
And that's what he said. So every time somebody asked him, hey, are you going to pardon so-so? Are you going to pardon Manafort? Are you going to pardon this? Well, I don't know. I haven't thought about it. I haven't done this. I'm allowed to. So I think what's going to happen is that Trump is going to, in fact, pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. And strategically, what they're going to do is get Ghislaine to give up the goods on some Democrats and maybe a billionaire friend of Trump's. By the way, this isn't my original idea. This is something that Arden presented to me from somebody else. Give up a couple Democrats, give up a billionaire friend that's not actually going to cost him anything, and get her to say that Trump wasn't involved in any of it. Then she gets a pardon. Trump gets to put the Epstein stuff to bed. The right gets to just keep pretending that there's this Democrat pedophile ring. Oh, Bill Clinton's in those files. Yeah, my favorite meme of the week is, I don't run around with Bill Clinton flags on my car and never have.
No shit.
I don't have a jacked up pickup truck with 6 Clinton flags driving around going, woo! He's definitely not a pedophile and he definitely has a big dick. What's that?
I said, put him on the same bus and drop him off a cliff. I have no love for Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
We already know he's a sexual predator. Whether there were children involved, we don't know yet.
Yeah. Every single one of them, Republican, Democrat, Independent, Green, Social. I don't give a shit. This is the difference. So we watched video of somebody going up to these MAGA folks saying, hey, Biden said this. And they're like, yep, that makes sense. He's a pedophile and did this and terrible. And then when they say, oh, no, wait, sorry, that wasn't Biden that said that, it was Trump. Oh, well, those are lies. It is heads I win, tails you lose. It is everybody's lying except the people in my cult. And this is like when we talked to our terrorist sympathizer earlier. Oh, well, you just think that because you don't agree with the Bible. No, I think it because I'm a human being that gives a shit about other human beings. I don't think it because I watched MSNBC or CNN or Fox News. I don't think it because I'm aligned with the Democrats or the Republicans. I don't give a shit. I care about what's right. I don't care if you think it's a genocide. I do. But whether it's a genocide or not, can we at least agree it's wrong? And even that caller agreed that it's wrong, except it's not wrong in this circumstance because it's Israel. Literally, the fallacy, special pleading. Literally, this is the other trap he fell into that I didn't get to actually address. In my opening, I addressed this because I said, when it comes to sexual assault, it doesn't matter what they were wearing. It doesn't matter if they consented and withdrew. It doesn't matter whether somebody else calls it rape or not. And it doesn't matter how hard of a life the perpetrator had. The perpetrator's hard life is not a justification for the action they took. Israel's hard past is not a justification for the actions they took. I predicted this response, wrote it in the first fucking lines of my opening statement, and still, they are so committed to their injustice that they fall into that trap. I planned that, and he walked right into it. He walked into everything that Jimmy and I set up, whether we planned it out 20 minutes before the show or 20 seconds before we asked him a question. And it's because the only time that really happens is when the person you're talking to is incredibly stupid or desperately trying to avoid acknowledging their own immorality. I think the second one is almost certainly true, and the first one might be as well. But I don't know. It's frustrating. You ready for this call that you've been interested to get to?
Polls right now, 3% of 177 people. So 4 or 5 of you are allegedly MAGA. So call. Tell me how I'm wrong. Tell Matt how he's wrong. Why is MAGA right? Well, and I want to also, I would love to hear from an honest MAGA person if this is their position. I'm MAGA, but Trump is no longer MAGA because he's probably a pedophile. I mean, he looks exactly. The other day I walked in on my cat and he was in the bathroom. He's not supposed to be in. He knows he's not supposed to be in there. And he immediately gave me the same look that Donald Trump gives every time Epstein's name comes up. Right? I wish I wasn't here. Oh God, I just got caught. And so anyway, I would love to hear if you are a MAGA person, who you believe in MAGA, but don't believe MAGA should move on from Trump because you recognize him as the at least potential pedophile. But then on top of that, grifter that he is, I'd chat it up with one of you as well.
All right, here we go. Jeff's calling from Canada. Jeff's an atheist who disagrees with what he believes is my position on the male side of abortion. Hey, Jeff, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. It's a hard day to have the name Jeff for a while here now.
Yeah,
what?
Even if you do spell it.
G off.
Hey, do you think it is permissible for a sperm donor to sign away all of their parental rights and claims if they so choose?
Yeah.
Cool. Then that's what every sperm donor, whether they do it through a sperm donation facility or just engage in sex, is doing. Because when you engage in sex, you are doing so right now with the understanding of what the law is, which means you are implicitly consenting to giving up any say-so over whether the pregnant person is allowed to have an abortion.
But to me, that's I almost wish we had let him state it, because that's not actually an abortion argument at all. Jeff, what is it you believe Matt's position is on the male side of abortion?
Yeah, well, I'll fully acknowledge that I'm pro-choice. Might be a very short call for you guys, but like the conversation.
Okay, let me ask it this way, Jeff, because maybe I can get to it quicker and better. Do you believe it is unfair that a woman has a choice to abort, but a man doesn't have the choice to abort his duty to the person?
Yeah, that's a good synopsis.
Okay. And do you believe that they're unfair together, that if the women get to abort, you should have, or do you believe they're two completely separate issues?
I think it's separate issues, because I think, you're someone's, body.
And why bring up the abortion part at all?
It's more about, like, what's the male equivalent? Because if I don't consent
No. I'm sorry. That isn't what the male equivalent is. And this is why I wanted you to set it up, because I have a feeling because of the way I interjected, you're now, I think, changing what you were going to do. It isn't the male equivalent. The male equivalent is if there is ever a foreign entity in your body using it parasitically that you don't wish to have there, you as a male may also have it removed. You may have tumors removed, even if they are sentient. We don't know that exists. You can have twins removed, vestigial twins removed. Any entity which is using your body parasitically, that is the male equivalent. Just the fact that you can't get pregnant doesn't mean you are owed an equivalent to an abortion. But if the day comes that you as a male can get pregnant, the science comes up and somebody sneaks into your room and they shoot you with the laser beam and now you're pregnant, you should have the same right to an abortion. You called it the male equivalent. There is no male. You are not owed a male equivalent because you can't get pregnant.
Perhaps my language needs to be corrected here, and I'm fully open for, like, this is maybe a sticking point that's been stuck in my brain, living rent free.
I suspect that isn't the case. I think you're trying to move a goalpost, because your initial notes mentioned abortion and you used the phrase male equivalent, and I believe until this was. I think more likely is until I just went on that little rant for you. Up until this moment, you did believe if they get abortion, we deserve a figurative abortion.
No,
essentially,
that's not what I believe or think. But it's the sticking point for me is just like, where am I going wrong? I guess a better way to phrase it, and maybe when I was on with the call screener, the question didn't come out very good. But where am I going wrong with the conversation of? Okay, that's maybe where I went wrong right there.
That's it. Yep. Now, if you want to have a conversation about whether or not, when you have a born child, does the mother have more rights to abandon the child than the father does once the child is born? Then we can discuss that, and whatever solution is there would hopefully be as equitable as possible. And there are things in which I can even agree with very toxic people on. I don't understand states that make it legal to paternity test, for example, under some circumstances. But beyond that, if you bring abortion into a conversation about the rights to abandon a living child, then you are already on a completely different issue.
That's the language I've been looking for. I really appreciate that. Holy.
Cool.
Yeah, no, a living child and the right to abandon is a different conversation altogether. And I know that there's legal consequences to that I've been wrestling with. And that is a different way of phrasing it than my brain was ready for.
It's not your fault because it's only been presented the other way to other people. I'm not kidding. There's usually when I hear, even on this channel, other people, when other people have debated this on this channel, I've called them before and been like, why did you let them equivocate that? Just so you know, these are different issues. That's it. You're not the only person guilty of not recognizing it.
Well, yeah, and I've seen people like men's rights people come at it with a really strange direction of like, oh, it's my autonomy for my labor, and like, no, that's a whole different story. But not
as
having
long
the
as
language,
they first acknowledge they have the exact same right to an abortion that a woman has, then I will have those more in-depth conversations with them.
Yeah.
Jeff, I won't ever put a baby in you with a laser beam. Don't worry.
If you could, for you, Jimmy.
No, I'm good.
Go fuck myself.
Yeah, there you go.
No, that's going to give me something to think about right there. Sorry for being a short call.
No, you're good. Anything from you, Matt?
No. I
kind of stole it.
I got my bit in, you got your bit in, my bit cut off my anticipated thing, and yours fixed the problem.
Yeah. That's why I said I like these cop topics. This call, I was looking forward to it because I'm finding most people are not establishing these are two different conversations. But Matt Walsh has convinced you they're the same, or not Matt Walsh. He's just anti-abortion.
Yeah, well, guys like that I see in the clips here and there. Yeah, like it's yeah. Well, it's that bullshit that I'm not in for, but I see it all the time. Like, where am I going wrong? It sounds logical, but there's a piece missing, and that's the piece of like, born child and like talking about parental duties after that fact. That's a whole different story.
Cool.
Yeah, my take is really simple. It's bodily autonomy, and you don't get to invade somebody else's bodily autonomy unless you can demonstrate cause. And can you? I mean, I'm not asking you because we already sorted that, but okay, there may be a justification. For example, is it a violation of my bodily autonomy to put me in prison? Yes, but we deem that justified under certain circumstances. So it's not just a universal, This is why I started with hey, you can, in fact, sign a document that signs away your parental rights. You can't force someone to have an abortion, and you can't force them to not have an abortion because you don't get any say over what they're going to do with their body unless you can demonstrate good reason to. And so what every one of us are doing, like every time I've had sex with anybody who could become pregnant, I was taking a risk. Doesn't matter whether I used prophylactics, whether or not they were on contraception, I'm still taking a risk. Consent to sex is consent to the risks, but is not consent to pregnancy. And consent to pregnancy isn't consent to remaining pregnant. And consenting to sex is not in any way saying, I'm going to give you further say-so over my body. I will fuck you, or I will let you fuck me, or we can get together and we can fuck. But that's it. Whatever happens after that is me or mine. And then what ends up happening, as soon as you phrase it like that, it's like, see? So I should be able to walk away and not, have any duty or responsibility. No. You still have a responsibility for the consequences of your action. You just don't have a say over what somebody else can do with their body.
Right. And that makes sense. And then you evoked Tracy Harris in the opening there, and about a wholly different point.
Well, not by name, entirely. I didn't, so thanks.
I'm sorry. But yeah, another person from another show. It was that brought to mind me of like, where am I going wrong with that line of thinking of consent to sex does not mean pregnancy, does not give consent to everything else. But the consequence of a born child, and like I agreed to all, I knew it was a risk, when I had kids. And now it's like, all right, where does that conversation go for people who maybe weren't intending that or wanted to revoke that from
the universal health care,
right? And the
universal health care and 100% covered
speaking as a
vasectomies.
Canadian, I'm arguing from a point of privilege on hooray if Canada is good for now on these things. Just maintaining that the state and health and educational side of things and make sure that everyone gets taken care of. Doesn't matter.
By the way, if a father establishes paternity and the mother wants to put the baby up for adoption, he still can there's a misconception out there that a woman can do it without his consent, and that's not true. If paternity is established, she can't do it either. But there are laws in the land that make you go like, that seems unbalanced in its application, and some of them are unfortunate, and then some of them make a sort of sociological argument. But
yeah, I know that courts, I mean, depending on where you're coming from, and I'm not a lawyer, so I mean, anybody correct me. But there, I have seen cases of bias, both one direction or the other, where there's sometimes it seems like an overcorrection against maybe a male party who might argue good case on one side, but sometimes they get their kids taken away from them, and it seems unjustified. But it could go either way. I mean, it depends, I guess, at the judge. I don't know.
Word.
Yeah, no, again, I'm happy to have a new concept to stew on there. So thanks for that.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. Thank you. So we don't have any other callers. I'm trying to get somebody in chat to call in because they're incredibly confused. Yeah, congratulations, Jimmy. We have successfully defeated the only terrorist apologist on the planet and all of the God botherers, and the last holdout on the male side of abortion. We have. It's amazing that the whole world isn't fixed by this magical episode that we've managed to do.
I'm trying to open a line specifically for MAGA people, but I think Arden just closed it. Are we giving up?
Yeah, my bad. I assumed since we were like, we're out of callers, that's the end, that we would just...
I was going to see if we could get a MAGA. That's all right. We can pop it in.
I have a ton of work that has to be done tomorrow because it's the last day of the month and I'm a procrastinator when it comes to finishing. Plus, I've also been sick for... 2.5 days this week and haven't slept worth a damn, in part because of let's just say fuck Vern. Let's do our super chats.
Arden, can you remind us at the end to shout out to whoever has the most XP, the top fans?
Sure.
So I don't know if y'all know about this chat system, but when you super chat and when you regular chat, but that's limited per hour. When you super chat, you get XP now. And so per episode, you have like a fan of the day or whatever thing. So right now there's a top 3, but I'm not going to call them out yet. But one of them has 700 XP, another 1650, another 2,625. That's the person to unseat. We got a lot of people with over 100 XP.
They're saying that dude's calling in. Is it possible to open lines? Just try it for one person.
Well, I closed the show. I mean, if I could reopen Call in Studio, but
yeah, just mute I don't know. I'd say
do whatever Jimmy said.
Output. If you just mute the output while it's connecting,
yeah, that's fine.
Not going to bug everybody's ears. I'd take Ozzy.
Well,
I gotta pee.
So we're going to read all the super chats over $10. We're going to see what Ozzy has to say because it may be that I misunderstood what they're typing in chat. One of the things that happens a lot is that somebody will type something in chat, and because it's a limited medium, and not everybody types particularly fast or well, they'll use more shortcuts than normal. And it's going to be like, maybe I missed part of the conversation because I'm here doing a show. I can't read all the chat. I just see some stuff. And when the stuff I see is bizarre and potentially confused,
Ozzy's actually in. I haven't screened him, but his caller notes from last time indicate that that's clearly who is.
Oh, he just terminated though. Call back Ozzy. Call again. Okay, there it's do we have has it already done the whole welcome to connect? You are connected. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm ready if you are.
Cool. So This Ozzy calling in, right?
Yeah.
So what was your point about nobody asked the baby if they wanted to be in somebody's womb? I didn't understand that point.
That was a joke. That was a joke. I was only joking. I didn't mean that shit.
Okay.
I tried calling in before about Epstein.
How are we supposed to know that was a joke?
No, everybody's saying weird stuff online. That's how I was just, I just joked that. I didn't really think you guys.
But that's not an answer to my question. That's not an answer to my question, Ozzy. How was I supposed to know that was a joke?
Oh, I'm sorry. I
That's not an answer to my question either. I didn't even ask for an apology. What is the problem with people who they don't answer the fucking question that they're asked? How was I supposed to know that was a joke? That's all I asked. Maybe I'm doing this, Ozzy. Don't say a word. Don't say a word. Don't say a fucking word. Okay. I'm doing this because I just acknowledged I might have missed something. I might have missed something in chat. I might have missed something somewhere. I'm genuinely giving the opportunity to either say, my bad, there's no way you should have known that was a joke. It was just sloppy on my part. Or you could have known it was a joke because of this other thing that I said or something somebody else said. I'm genuinely asking, how was I supposed to know it was a joke?
I'm sorry, I had no idea you didn't know that it wasn't a joke. I didn't know. I thought you were reading the chat.
Now you just said you had no idea that I didn't know it wasn't a joke, which is really weird. We'll just assume that you're really good at miscommunicating a little bit. Did you have anything else that you wanted to address while you're here?
I'm sorry. No, I just wanted to talk about the Epstein thing because you said
what about
nobody was calling it? What happened?
I just saying, what did you want to say about the Epstein thing?
No, that there's this testimony of Katie Johnson, and it's online. I sent in the link in the chat, and it's a testimony of her incident with Trump and Epstein, and another 13-year-old girl. Did you guys?
Yeah, that's been around for a few years. And MAGA right now is
5 or 6 years or so. We've known about that.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know. Because I figured that's pretty much the reason why Trump is trying to hide it, right?
So I have no idea. I have no idea what the truth is. So I have no idea what he's trying to hide. But if that's already out in public, then clearly he's failed to hide that, right?
No, nobody's talking about it. I haven't seen any news.
No,
Wait. You think that Trump hasn't been told about Katie Johnson's testimony?
No. I know that he knows about it. I'm saying that nobody in the news, the mainstream news, is talking about it.
They did when it was news, and it's basically been dismissed because the original case was dismissed. Then she withdrew her on technical grounds. Then she withdrew her complaint and hasn't pursued anything since, and has not clarified why she did it or anything like that. So,
I thought it was because that they did the death threats on her.
They did the what?
Death threats.
That was part of the original complaint, not why she withdrew it.
But let's assume for a second that they did threaten her life, and that's why she withdrew it. How do you prove that?
Right.
How do I prove what?
Never mind, Ozzy. I'm done with you.
Ozzy, we want the Epstein files to be properly investigated and for the truth to come out so that it helps further inform. And if it comes out and the look on his face is true and he is that big of a pedophile, I think people will look back and go, yeah, that Katie Johnson thing was probably spot on. But right now it's in a precarious situation where even if one of us were to suspect either he did do that or would do that, it doesn't do us much good in the state that it's in right now, because it's easy for the opposition to be like, she withdrew her complaint and didn't do anything after. So why'd that happen? They think that that's a positive for them, not a negative.
Well, what if that's in the Epstein files? Huh?
What if it is? What if there's a description of the Kennedy assassination in the Epstein files? What if there's proof of aliens in the Epstein files? I'm not here to play what if. Say goodbye, Ozzy.
See, Ozzy. We can't. It's too much.
Well, first of all, I'm ready to move on to super chats. Before I do that, I'd like to apologize to the world's most wonderful, awesome, brilliant, beautiful producer for making her jump through hoops for something so mind-numbingly stupid as that.
It was pretty bad. I don't know. I was hoping a MAGA caller would maybe take the opportunity when the lines were back open, but we didn't even send a busy signal. So, oh well.
Yeah, no, it's all good. We have plenty of other stuff and plenty of other shows to do. So we're going to go through super chats. We're going to read all your super chats, even if they're dumb, even if they're trying to get us to say something silly. You could make me read a super chat that says, I fully support IDF. And then you would have that sound clip, except I just gave you that sound clip. So we'll see who cut and pastes or yanks that one out of there. But anyway.
You can't control $10. The words we surround it with, but you can get us to say the ones in the middle.
$10 from the atheist mechanic. Those who don't speak up about rape or the people perpetrating it are complicit in the action. God isn't excluded from this either. Amen. Absolutely. Amen. It is.
Right.
It is bizarre. There are people who can be complicit in something and not be aware of what they're actually complicit in because they've been misinformed, ill-informed. I'm not saying let's, line everybody up against the wall. I'm saying let's make people aware and let's get people to stand up and take action. And I think what Jimmy did was great, which was, will you denounce what IDF is doing in this regard? Not will you denounce IDF, not will you denounce whether or not they have a right to go after Hamas, not will you denounce, it's will you denounce what they're doing to civilians? And the person would not do that. I denounce anybody who's doing it. I don't care. This isn't hard.
Yeah. Right now, the atheist mechanic is winning, has the most XP in chat. Get your super chats in if you all want to unseat the king there. 99 from Hannah Hodgins. Love the line, love all the hosts, moderators, producers, call screeners, and the chat, and even the trolls because they are giving us views. And if you really love the line and you want to attend the online LineCon online live, I've made it too many L's on purpose. Those begin in August, the third Saturday, $15 a month. We'll be able to attend it live, participate in the Q&A, and listen to the 3 lectures given by hosts live. And that's going to be the shiznit. So check that out. Patreon.com/calltheline.
Ooh. I was going to share something from Epic Loot's Insta, but it didn't get shared as a... Arden and I have good news. And that is, amongst all the other stuff, Epic Loot Exotics, our reptile hobby business thing, whatever, hatched out 9 jungle carpet pythons this morning. It's the first time we've had success breeding this particular species. We are incredibly excited. And they're up on my Instagram and I think on my Facebook too, but I'll take a look later. But thank you, Hannah. Another $10 from the atheist mechanic who's going to have more XP than anybody. Did you see where FEMA is giving states money to state to build their own concentration camps? I did not.
I looked up the news article right after this came out. It's from Reuters. They're offering up to $608 million to help states. I don't think it's per state. I think it's $608 million from a total pool to help states build their own immigrant detention camps.
Ooh, I can do this. Whoops, sorry. Yeah, I don't have any of the details, but Arden's looked into it, and I will do my best to look into it more later. Whoops. I have clicked the wrong thing. Let me click the right thing so that you can get more.
Apparently, they're also redirecting money that was specifically from a Biden program, from the FEMA Shelter and Services Program, which is supposed to be helping shelter people. They're redirecting that money, $608 million in grants to states to build temporary migrant detention facilities. Because no matter what they do, they're always going to figure out the most dickish way to do it too.
Oh, did you already read that second half of that? Sorry. This was a separate one on it.
Okay. The atheist mechanic also says from the article, FEMA is prepping to send states $608 million to build their own immigration detention centers, concentration camps. This is beyond saddening. Yes, that blows.
There's a bunch of weird $10 Canadian in alleged money, in alleged real money from Like a Wolf. Jimmy, catch me in one of your Pokeballs.
I assume that's a reference to some of the outros. And look, I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is those outros are definitely going to be changing because I can't see myself at the ends of clips now without experiencing a significant level of body dysmorphia, having undergone such a transformation. And so we're going to have updated ones. The bad news is I'm going to make sure they're cringier. I've seen your comments. I hear your comments. I'm going to make them worse. It's going to be a good time.
Here, Arden, put me full screen when you can, and I will. There we go. This is a video I shot this morning. So what you're going to see here are 9 carpet python eggs. The snakes will stay in the egg, and they'll be there for a few more days while they absorb the other stuff's in there. But they have an egg tooth, and they cut and pipped out. And I've muted the video, but I'm just going to run across it real quick. So these are jungle carpet pythons in their eggs. Those eggs are 2 inches in length. Somebody said it looked like they were in Keisha said it looks like they're in a little cookie dish. And it does look like they're in a little cookie dish. Those are hatch-right trays. You put the eggs on those, and then there's substrate underneath that holds moisture in order to keep the humidity up.
Are you thinking we can see this?
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, you're talking like we can see.
Have me a drink.
I also do that every time he does that.
Okay, let me try this again since I had it up completely, so my Stream Deck has stopped working. Oh my God, shut up, you dumbass. So my Streamlabs stopped working, so the button that I pushed to set the other scene did not push. So there we go. Now you can see this. So once again, take everything I said before and it's here. Jungle carpet pythons, these are the eggs. They're about 2 inches. That's a hatch-right tray. There's a substrate underneath that keeps it moist in there. They pipped this morning. They will be in the eggs for a couple more days. And then we will get to see exactly how they look. We'll be watching for their first shed, checking their color, checking their health, everything else. Hooray. Hey, look, now we get something that looks absolutely terrible. Because I'm not used to doing that, and I messed up my Streamlabs.
Atheist Mechanic solidified their lead, but space 2 and 3 are still up for grabs. People get that XP. Go ahead. Sorry.
Here we go.
Hannah Hodgin says, just the fact that theists claim their God is all powerful and bless them with a good life, yet this God can't help these starving people and save babies from getting shot in the head. It's insanity. Yeah, and not stray bullets, aimed bullets at children, right? Like, the concept, when they want to use this human shield thing, when I was a kid, I thought they meant it literally, like you'd put a human on like a riot shield, or you'd like tie them to the fronts of tanks. I didn't understand. But when they want to say this human shield thing, they're acting as though, civilians just get caught up in the collateral damage, which could still be done very wrongly but we're not talking about, in a lot of these cases, bullets that were aiming for a member of Hamas and then hit a child by accident. We're talking about bullets flying at children and hitting children, bullets flying at, aiming at children and aiming at mothers, aiming at families. It's not again, it wouldn't justify the scale of civilian deaths if they were all accidental. But do be aware it is more malicious than they wish you would know.
And all you got to do is listen to the caller. When Yeah. Voltaire famously said, when you can get people to believe absurdities, you can get them to commit atrocities. And the absurdity here is in believing that it's justified to kill those kids because they will someday become a terrorist. That is the blatant absurdity. That is A, not necessarily true, B, more likely to be true given your actions. It's like throwing gasoline on a fire. Well, we need to burn that house down anyway because whoever lives there next is going to be just as bad as whoever lives there now. Sweet. You guys can rationalize anything. $10 from Joshua Everett. All chat friends should start printing out take a number flyers for the line and pinning them to church bulletin boards with permission, of course. Yes, I think that's a great idea. As a matter of fact, I don't know how many, some of you probably heard this story, so I'll keep it super brief. Jeff D. lived in the same apartment complex that I did for a period of time. Jeff put a flyer up for the Atheist Experience, fuck you, Vern, on the mailbox at my apartment complex. And I happened to go out and see it. Now, I'd already heard about the show, but I happened to go out on Sunday and check my mail. I happened to see that, and it was within time to call. And I called into the show, had a quick conversation with them, and the rest is history. The rest is such good history that they continue to use my old content to pay their employees and the lawyers that prevent me from getting access to my emails. So yeah, share the word. Let people know about the line. You don't have to talk about my shit.
We might even start distributing graphics people can print off. And when that happens, I will do my best to not swear. If I know church folk are calling in, I'll try to.
We should do it with Zerba.
With what?
Zerba. They get enough Patreon support. We'll have flyers with Zerba.
There you go. Call Zerba. Whose voice would Zerba have? Or do I do one of my impressions? Do I craft an original voice and make Zerba an animated thing? The Atheist Mechanic says, I have to believe that people like Paul are trolls because advocating for those things are absolutely vile. I want better for humanity. I think the main reason why I don't believe he's a troll, and it could be a Poe's Law thing, but everything he said has to be a popular sentiment amongst the people who do support that war. Otherwise, the war would not continue.
Yes. And, you know, I haven't watched the whole thing. I watched highlights from Mehdi Hassan's Jubilee thing with the
channel.
Nazis. Yeah, fuck the channel. But this was one of the most brilliant pieces of deconstructing I've ever seen in my life. And I've watched and been around some people who are really, really great at it. He's one of the best I've ever seen. And what was shocking was the people that they put in there with him make me weep for the future, because it means that the people who I would prefer to think are trolls are actually spoiled children quite often who don't understand what their words truly mean and the impact of those things. It is very much a, hey, I want this world and I don't care what happens if we, to get us there. When they don't even, I'm not convinced they actually want that world. Like the dude that is all of a sudden a fan of socialism now that he lost his job over that event.
I will say too, one of the things that is striking about that, because a lot of people will make the claim like, well, they just got a lot of extreme people and not like the people who, but my problem, I guess, is if you did something similar where you had a conservative fight 20 leftists, but most of the leftists they got are the leftists that other leftists don't agree with. They're very radical. They believe in some kind of authoritarian something. Maybe they're for like everybody living more like a North Korean life or something like that. You would have a public, the main narrative you would hear are leftists across the board condemn the Jubilee leftists that were there to represent them. Like, we do not accept that that's who you had us represent. There has been nothing like that and it's not like the right doesn't like Jubilee. That's why they're sending their people. Ben Shapiro's been on it, Jordan Peterson's been on it, and seem to be content to be there. The fact that of the 20 people, it seems at least half of them were Nazi level fascist right wing, at least half. And there hasn't been a large, like, this doesn't represent us condemning from their community is telling. I would have a problem with who is representing my side easily.
And none of them seem to have any sort of comprehension of Rawls' veil of ignorance. Design the world you want to live in, not knowing who you will be in that world. They all are like, oh, I want, this government, but I won't end up on the wrong side of it because I'm one of the good guys. I'm the one on the right. Blah, blah, blah. When I try to evaluate what's right, I use Rawls' veil of ignorance as the starting point. Is it right? And this is why when I ask questions of people, okay, is it right for a government to systematically starve and target civilians in order to punish those who are the actual perpetrators? And if your answer is no, it doesn't get to be no unless it's Israel, because you're only doing that because you will never end up on the wrong side of that. You have created an exception, a loophole that excludes you, or you think it does. But generally speaking, those are the loopholes people construct, the ones that exclude them. When I'm trying to figure out what's right and what's just, is slavery just? Remember, you could be a slave or a slave owner. No, it's not just. Hey, what about sexual assault? No. What about, pick anything. Once you realize, and this is the hypocrisy that we see so often. We see these individuals on the right who are gay bashing, homophobic, queer hating, blah, 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 until they get a niece or a nephew in their family who they like, who comes out as gay, and all of a sudden, now they've got a new loophole. They've got a reason, because before that moment, they didn't have anybody who was going to be marginalized that they gave a shit about, but now they do. If they would have only thought about, what if I was born gay? What if I became gay? What if however they want to look at it, whether you're born that way, became it, what if I was subject to this? What if somebody I love was subject to this? Why is it the case that dudes only, and I say that, not men, dudes, only start giving a shit about women's value and autonomy when they have a partner that's a woman or a child that's a woman? Why does that fundamentally change? It's because, much like the batshit crazy, I got mine, fuck you if you can't get yours libertarians, they never thought that the leopard would eat their face. And so they were okay with those face-eating leopards. We see it over and over and over and over again. We got super chats. $10 from Fra Jimmy. I wish the name of the show was still The Hang Up. Matt hasn't lectured someone into the ground followed by a hang up. The name of the show is still The Hang Up.
So wish granted. Genie's up in here. Dinosaur
Congratulations.
Tony. Oh, wait, you haven't hit it yet.
I'll hit it now.
There you go. Dinosaur Tony says, Matt catches flack for losing his cool sometimes, but I was in awe at how calm he was when responding to the wretched monster, Paul. I couldn't have done it.
It's easier when they do all the hard work for you. When they flatly acknowledge that, yep, I'm making this particular exception. And when you spot the fallacies, hey, special pleading, done. We're done.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that I think when it comes to theistic arguments, at least and I think a lot of people's here style is, where does the logic break down? Where does the skepticism break down? Where are you failing to connect? But when it comes to political arguments, usually my tactics are like, all right, let's just find the hypocrisy. I know there's going to be some. Let's just get right to the hypocrisy of it all.
Yeah. $10 from Ash Glitch. What are some things that the Bible is factually correct on besides names of certain figures? Well, yeah, place names and things like that. There are events. So there are events that are listed in the Bible that we have records of actually happening from other cultures. And there are events that are in the Bible that we have no confirming evidence for them, like a global flood, like Quirinius taking a census that required people to travel from their homeland to Jerusalem or from their hometown to Jerusalem, et cetera. None of that is stuff that's supported by external evidence. But, there are real people named Herod, et cetera. And so I think it was, I think it probably first there's from Russell Glasser, but essentially Spider-Man takes place in New York. And so if in 20,000 years they dig up, excavate New York and discover that New York was real, that doesn't mean that Spider-Man was real. And that's kind of what a lot of people are doing with the Bible. It's like, oh, well, this is mentioned and that's real. This is mentioned and that real. Therefore, it's reasonable to conclude that there was a talking donkey, a global flood, that Moses parted the Red Sea and people walked across on dry land and it flooded. And that's why we found a wagon wheel down there. There's your physical evidence for the global flood. That and seashells at the top of mountains because they don't understand Pangea. And
well, except the chariot wheel actually isn't down there. That's the chariot wheel comes from an old satire magazine that they don't know was satire back decades ago. My favorite example though is Dr. Kyle Butt, who is the head of some church YouTube channel. He once did a video of like proofs the Bible is true, and one of them he cited was that in one of the verses it talks about how the soldiers should basically poop away from the camp, not in the camp, but away from the camp. And that was proof that they had this scientific knowledge that you shouldn't poop where you eat and sleep. was one of the facts that proves the Bible is true.
Rather than just saying, hey, I'd rather not smell that, it's actually a scientific finding in the Bible that this is going to cause problems. Not, you don't get credit for recognizing that some things smell gross to almost everybody.
Do you remember that caller we had a while back? I'm pretty sure you were the guy on where I was like, are you under the impression that before science, people hadn't figured out a lot of basic stuff? And do you think like people were just walking around not knowing not to eat poop and stuff like that? It was like, I guess that was I kind of what I thought. I was like, no, people figured out a lot of shit before the scientific method was introduced. And not pooping in your camp was not one of the hard ones.
It's all the scientific methods did is offer a way to better tell the difference between things we know that aren't so and things we know that appear to be so.
Kind of expedited the processes in a lot of ways.
Yeah. This one's you.
Yeah. Atheist Mechanic says, Trump may be an absolutely not smart person, but he knows how to infect his fan base to the same level of not smart, having to beat the censors. It's hard. It's even talks of smart or not smart. I think you are better off not underestimating him, even though I'm positive I could beat him at everything else. Clearly he can he is better at compelling large groups of people to do things than I am. So I've kind of gotten off especially when a lot of the audience whose minds you want to change do think he's smart. So in the same way, it's not that productive to point out that Jordan Peterson isn't universally smart, but he's good at a couple of things and can fool you into being a genius. Right. If you just go at it from the angle of he's so stupid, how are you falling for the stupid person? You're not going to successfully change anyone's mind.
Although in his case, I have yet to find anything from him, both when we sat down and had a conversation and from his book, which Jake and Hannah did a great job of fisking his book and going through in great detail. Actually read it to it. It's good stuff on Bible Reloaded. I have yet to have anybody tell me anything from him that I find to be insightful, true, and good. I recognize he's probably correct and smart on some aspects within his field.
Right.
But also, having heard him talk about it, he's so enamored with kind of sophistry and language and being obtuse that even when he's talking in his field, he is the Duke of Deepities.
Yeah.
I named him that. That's who he is.
When he said clean your room, that changed my life.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah.
I think he is an expert sophist. Is that the word? Would that be, or it'd be sophistist? I think that
I like sophist.
There may never have been a person to do it better. I don't know. Truly, I can't think of.
It's okay. It may have changed Arden's life, but since we share a room now, I'm the one that cleans her room.
There you go. I believe that.
Whoa. You what exact fucking extent do you clean the room? Because I know I do almost all the laundry.
I'm sorry. When you got back from NanoCon, wasn't all the laundry?
You cleaned for me while I was away, and you think that counts as credit? Yeah. Okay.
Y'all are supposed to be doing this with a trained professional from Jordan Peterson's field, not live chat.
Okay.
Do it in therapy. Well, don't fight here. We'll all get scared.
I'm sorry that Arden's fanship for Jordan Peterson causes her to lie, but here's a good super chat. 10 pounds from Jessica Doodoo McButtface. If I get the most XP.
I thought Arden was going to jump in. Well, I never went to dinner with him. That would have been the perfect opportunity, and you missed it.
I was just going to say that just because I said it changed my life doesn't mean I started cleaning my room.
Oh.
Yeah, and I got paid to go to dinner with him. So if I get the most XP instead of a call out, I want Arden to apologize to Growlith officially and admit Espion sucks. Hashtag love you soon. Hashtag Zerba for president of the line. I'm pretty sure you're not going to get the most XP. But yeah, no, that's just not going to happen.
We will do something if this reminds me that we need to figure out something to do. There's about 57% of the audience that we are failing you because your skeptical mind hasn't taken hold. You're not better critical thinkers. It was the 57% of you that voted that cats were better than dogs. We will figure out some programming to help improve whatever's going on with your brain. But we're very sorry. That's got to be our fault. You come to us to get better, and yet your brains have gotten worse.
I'm sorry. There's somebody who came in here.
I hope it's your cat.
Let's keep going. It's no, the cat can't open the door, but that means there's no producer, which means now we can do and say whatever we want right now.
That's why she's not antagonizing me for the cat comments.
If Atheist Mechanic wins, you have to put that up on screen.
Okay. Wow. I'm impressed. I hope Atheist Mechanic wins because I've just been given something. I do want to say before we get to this next super chat, it is a frank comment on a difficult subject, so please be prepared.
El Chemist says, I'm AFAB. I prefer to cannot say. Okay. I'm AFAB is tired of living over being forced to carry a pregnancy. Anyone who thinks banning abortion saves lives is an idiot. Okay, would rather. Why can't we say kill ourselves?
So there are a number of problems with it from the YouTube side and what you're allowed to type into chat.
Oh,
not what you're necessarily allowed to talk about. I just knew it was a sensitive topic. I think you can't type that phrase.
Okay.
Like kill myself into chat.
I know that there was a conversation at one point, and I feel it backfired, and maybe this has already been over, but people who talk about not talking like that because of the states people are in, I think it's very short-sighted to tell people not to, for example, make dark jokes about killing themselves and stuff, because sometimes that is the way people who are either suicidal or have suicide ideation cope. And so I've taken the opposite position from people who are like, you shouldn't make jokes like that. And I'm like, you don't know the level of depression I have. You can kindly go fuck yourself. But that's me.
This one is yours.
Jeff O says, thanks so much for helping me rewire my brain. I was missing that piece and I'm happy to let go of the bug lingering in my head. You're gay, homie. Go fuck yourself, Jimmy. I know you're referring to the abortion call, but I'm going to pretend it just came in after I corrected how bad people's brains are working when they think that cats are better than dogs.
$10 from Ryan Hall. Hey, Matt, been following since 2017. Love it all. Navy veteran myself. Hooyah. Sounds more like a Marine. What the hell's wrong with you? What's wrong with you, sailor? Why you sound like a Marine?
Aren't Marines part of the Navy?
Well, they're their own branch, but I think technically they fall under the Department of Navy. But no Marine is going to say they're a Navy veteran.
Hey, I have a spicy
Marines
topic question. Do you believe we should have? So Space Force was obviously started by Trump. Take your feelings about Trump out of it. Do you think a Space Force was warranted?
No.
Just because you'd have given it to the Air Force, or you just think that it's just not warranted?
Yeah. I think that there's no reason. I think it was, I want to create a new branch of the armed services, and I can do that. When in reality, the nature of the armed services has changed and will continue to change because the nature of our capabilities in warfare has changed and will continue to change. I think that it should absolutely have just been an expansion of duties for the Air Force. But I don't care either way. I don't care whether they create a bucket for Space Force or a bucket under the Air Force. The only issue for me is there a job that needs to be done? Is there something that was desperately in need of this? And as far as I can tell, there was no immediate necessary need for it. It might be a good thing, somewhere down the road, but we have climate change, we have wars, we have people starving, we have people being sex trafficked. I don't think we need a Space Force right now. And the only reason to do it is the same reason that they're trying to rename the Kennedy Center after him. His sycophants want to name everything after him and give him everything. I've said this so many times, I genuinely do not understand the world we're living in. I can understand how you could be right-wing and wrong about stuff. I can understand how you could be hateful. I do not understand how anybody can look at that person and say, we need golden statues and to name everything after Trump. Trump is Christ's representative on earth for the... None of that makes any sense. It is a level of cult behavior that my brain just can't process.
So I'm going to officially go on the record. I am quite pro Space Force, and there's a much longer version of this. I'll give you the short version. They have unintentionally created a branch of the military that qualifies for military funding that will mostly not be used for weapons and killing, which means that there may be the opportunity, not maybe, a future non-right-wing Republican administration will absolutely now be able to redirect military funds. Not redirect, it's technically, but basically to NASA research. And we may be able to, instead of, since there's a lot of things we need to be spending money on, instead of how much we spend on the military, it is much easier to now use this avenue to basically fight climate change by redirecting funds to Space Force. There's other reasons to like it, and I actually do support the Space Force, but the main reason is not for anything for him. I think it is going to tremendously backfire on the Republicans for us to have a mostly nonviolent, purposed military branch.
I think that's a really good point, and you have convinced me of the possible merit of it, except I don't think it was needed at the time. But more than that, they just introduced legislation to overturn the scientific findings that confirm climate change. And so if that gets codified, then there'll be no legitimate purpose of the government to stand up and try to oppose climate change and do any initiatives there. If the science that backs it is denounced by the government, we'd have to change that first. We are moving backwards at such a rate that we'll
find out in
the only space we need to investigate is the space between MAGA's ears.
It's too vast. We've got a better chance finding our way to Alpha Centauri.
We don't have the funding for that. Nope. $20 from the Atheist Mechanic, just adding in a last super chat, but just wanted to say thank you, Matt, you, Aaron, and Seth. Help me in my deconstruction from the Methodist Church. I also want to thank everyone on the line. You are all awesome. Much love. Well, thank you. And once again, for those who don't know, that is a picture of a ball python, and specifically the bamboo morph, which I really like, and we have some. We just haven't produced them yet.
Some people in chat have figured out that. Well, I'll wait till we get to the super chat. Nathan Poljak says, "Hey guys, thought about asking a serious question, but I wanted to contribute a positive vibe tonight. Given the state of the world, so instead, what is the funniest thing you witnessed today? Go fuck yourself, Jimmy." Funniest thing today. I know I made my girlfriend laugh out loud, so I'm trying to remember what I said to her.
I think the funniest thing I heard today is that Jimmy has a girlfriend.
That's it's not a secret anymore, but fair enough. Luthien, what did I say to you earlier that was funny? There was something. I was at doctor's appointments a lot of the day, so I probably just kept trying not to laugh at a lot of. We talk a lot about my poops at these things, so probably trying to act like I'm a full-grown man at those.
You might not realize it, but Arden and I talk a lot about your poops too.
Oh, I insist. I'm texting y'all about them enough. I will say my doctor asked, would you like a refill of your propranolol? And I said I would, but I'd rather have erections. So I've actually chosen erections over anxiety, over a reduction in anxiety. So yeah, that's my jam. That's probably the best I got for you today. It wasn't a particularly funny day.
Yeah, no, I was doing final prep work. I've got some videos. Some parts are shot. Some parts need to be done. I'm doing the final stuff tomorrow. So today wasn't especially funny.
Yeah.
I think the most funny thing, I think when I cooked lunch, Arden and I had some fun laughy time dancing around in the kitchen. And so that was my fun highlight for today. $10 for Ryan Hall. Funny enough, I actually ended my theistic journey as a theistic Satanist or Satanist after having a battle between Christianity and theistic Satanism throughout the Navy. It was wild. Possession was fun. And it's 9/10 of the law.
I get it. Fuzzy Logic says, a Medicine Sans Frontieres delegation led by a leading Oxford University pediatric surgeon tried to bring some baby formula with them on their latest rotation to Gaza. IDF confiscated it. Yeah, I don't know if you caught that. When they were saying we bring aid, I think I tried to talk at the same time as Matt, but I mentioned they literally confiscate baby formula from doctors who are going in. They do, and at that
you know
point,
why?
Well, then what if the IDF was going to drink that?
Yeah.
Not the IDF. Sorry, I get my terrorists mixed up.
Hamas. They'll end up drinking the baby food because it's the only food they can get. So the babies are going to die anyway. So since they're both going to die anyway, and they're just going to steal that food from the babies, let's just confiscate the food and then they can all die.
Yeah.
Rationalization is a grand tool.
Czar Neuronkar says, minor break from serious topics. What's everyone's fave Pokeball? I'm solidly with Premier Ball. The red ball opening effect gets me every time. Also, I still have 50 characters left, so I simply will I have a giant Premier Ball. But no, my favorite, probably just out of function. Favorite, I don't know if it's my favorite looking or not, but out of function, boy, I feel like every game I'm just trying to figure out how to get as many quick balls as quickly as possible. So this is my Pokemon prop quick ball.
My balls don't look anything like that.
Yeah, I do think the classic Ultra Ball is classy looking though. I like the black and the yellow. I like that.
$10 for Hannah Hodgins. Paul is insanely inhumane, absolutely vile rubbish. Anyway, atheist mechanic, I'm coming for your spot.
Dun, dun, dun.
As a battling. $10 from Daniel. I'm going to read 2 in a row because I'm an idiot. Matt and Jimmy, got to watch the replay on this one. By the way, NanoCon was great. I heard really good things about NanoCon. I'm glad you went, Daniel. Arden, do you want to give a quick summary of how awesome you thought NanoCon was?
Yeah, I got to meet Daniel and the atheist mechanic at NanoCon. I'm sure some other chatters as well, along with a whole bunch of other creators I hadn't heard of that are doing really cool, awesome things. This was one of the best atheist conventions I've been to in a long time. The only downside was that there were so many incredible speakers that many of them ended up having to speak at the same time, and I couldn't see everything I wanted to see. And that seemed to be everyone's shared complaint. So, yeah, huge shout out to Patrick and Secular Rarity for all the work they did putting this together. They did a phenomenal job. Outstanding.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, great job to all the organizers. Everybody had great things. Everybody had great things to say about everybody. I know. Who else from the line was there? John was there.
Yeah, I got to meet John Gleason. Durante was there. Dr. Ben was there. I'm trying to think. Anyone else from the line? I don't think anyone else who works at the line was there. But a lot of great people. Yeah, would highly recommend.
Jimmy, were you getting ready to say something?
I thought Owen was, but then I realized that was the SSA con.
Yeah, I saw Owen last weekend at SSA.
Arden gets to hang out with everybody, and I stay here and do the laundry and take care of the animals.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
So Arden's laughing, and she knows I'll tell you because I'm honest. I spent the entire time she was gone alternating between doing some work for my channel and playing a fuck ton of EverQuest because I hadn't played in 20 years. So I'm building up a little bot army on the TLP server. And so I was high and playing EverQuest. And then before she got back, I scrambled to do all the laundry and the dishes and all the other things.
I was going to say, what was that ratio of EverQuest to work? I would love to know if you had to ballpark it. What was it?
It was 80-20 EQ. I spent time.
Very honest of you. Thank you.
You know me, as I always do. I'm constantly processing what are going to be the next videos, what are potentially, how best to say it. Yeah, I'd say it was about 80-20.
Waking hours, or does the 20 include sleep?
Well, I haven't been sleeping much lately, but that's another story. But
It's
I'm
that
doing
time
okay.
of year. I don't know if it's the same for you, but I'm not sleeping well. Luthien's not sleeping well. I think it's allergy. I don't know. That time of year, heat.
No, I had a mix of health issues and anxiety-riddled psychological things. And so it was much easier to get high and escape into a video game for a weekend than it was to deal with the absolute bullshit.
Funny enough, allergies actually exacerbate. I realized this after tracking when my anxiety problems get worse or better. My allergy is actually one of the things that attacks my nervous system. So the depths of my anxiety, I'm not saying this for everyone, it's just more of a fun fact, but my anxiety and my during allergy season, the depths of my panic attacks are much deeper.
Anyway. My stuff's changed. Like, for example, I don't have allergies, so I can't blame that, but I do have issues related to my diabetes and my heart and other stuff. So occasionally I'll have like really bad GI stuff. But I never used to have anxiety or panic attacks at all. Around the time that the heart surgery happened, that's, I think, partially around the time I got the puppy. That created a tipping point, and that and a couple heart attacks made it so that I'm much more aware of when I might be getting anxious. I don't think Arden, have you ever seen me have a proper panic attack or just like really bad anxiety?
I don't know if I would say any of them have been a proper panic attack. There have been some that were close.
I thought I saw you have one once, but I'm pretty sure it turned out to be mild heat stroke that day you were fixing the air conditioner and you...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, where I was no longer capable of thinking and speaking in English. Yeah.
You keep going like... And wow, that's so weird. I have no idea what I was going to say. You kept saying that in the lead up. But also, I mean, even with the anxiety stuff, I think about the whole reason you got the dog in the first place. I think COVID fucked up a lot of us being isolated for so long and stuff. Fucked us up a lot.
Yeah. I had a rough go of it. I went through a divorce and a bad relationship and a couple of good ones. But Yeah, the puppy was supposed to fix stuff, and that was just a mistake. But anyway,
Yeah.
$10 from Alexander Canine Services. So there we go. Is it not a contradiction for Christians to join the military? No, I have no reason to think it's a contradiction for Christians to join the military.
Yeah, there's a lot of military in the Bible.
Especially when they're hands-on when it comes to duties like infantry and fighter pilot duties. I'm curious on your input. I have no idea why you or anybody else would think that it's unchristian to join the military. Christians aren't pacifists. And Jesus specifically said that to render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, and all leaders are appointed by God, and that God has a plan. And yeah, I don't know where you would get that.
Joshua Everett says, the smallest cat is far smaller than the smallest dog, and the largest cat is far larger than the largest dog. Checkmate. Well, is that going to be true when they bring back the dire wolf? Which I know before somebody gets in. They're not technically, but we're getting closer. The smallest cat is far smaller than the smallest dog, so I'm thinking of a toy chihuahua. What cat is smaller than a toy chihuahua? I'm very interested to find out. What? Because if there's a tiny cat that stays smaller than a toy chihuahua, those like itty bitty chihuahuas,
they could be. There's like the munchkin cats who have they're like dachshunds for cats. They've got those tiny little stubby, deformed looking legs, but they're adorable.
That's smaller than the Taco Bell chihuahua. Because isn't that a toy?
They're pretty close. I don't know. I've never actually seen one of those cats in person. I've just seen videos of them.
Tigers are bigger than dire wolves. That's crazy. I mean, ligers are bigger than everything, but I didn't know tigers were.
They're all fish, so
they're all going to evolve into crabs one day.
$20 from Allison the Animal. The only good episode of Jubilee I've seen was with Dr. Mike. One doctor versus 20 anti-vaxxers. He was amazing, but the amount of prep he had to do was crazy. After all that, he said the number one comment he got was that he looked fat. I remember him talking about that.
Not a good episode, though. Medi's episode, if you're going on that standard of how prepared and how good they were at hitting back, then so is Medi's. But that episode is the problem. I actually turned down Jubilee a couple years ago, and I wasn't surprised at which atheist ended up eventually doing the episode I was invited to do. But that's neither here nor there. Anyway, I turned them down and I told them, no, the way in which you try to equalize this idea of anti-vax, or I quote cited the episode where it was like the scientists and the flat earthers, but there was this theme of like, shouldn't we still hear each other out as though that these are on equal footings? That one was fucking horrible, because you're like, guys, we should have discussions, and you have one person on one side of the discussion saying, I'm a doctor, I will change my mind with evidence, I want to discover, and you had 20 individuals against him who said, nothing you say could change my mind. I won't change my mind. I am choosing to lock out any other information. That is what is at its core wrong with Jubilee, besides the fact that they platform fascists, platform white supremacists, like whatever. It is the faking, fuck Dawkins and his current stuff. But years ago, he talked about why he doesn't debate young earth creationists. And he would said, because that would look great on your CV and terrible on mine. And it's sort of similar. Like, why are we offering an image of equality to, the only thing I would say is redeeming about the 1 verse 20 format is the idea of, it takes 20. You guys basically need 20 to equal 1. Except for that, they fucking put Candace Owens as the 1 in one case. So sort of like the gladiator going in to fight all comers is at some points fucking fascist also. So that's not a good episode. Jubilee sucks, but they're not going anywhere. And I've accepted that they have like, in a way that Mr. Beast did before, they have broken the secret to the algorithm. And I accept that I'm going to have to interact with an audience of people who will mostly be aware of what their content holds.
So I don't know whether or not I was ever invited by Jubilee. It's possible that something came out. I don't care. In the early days, when I was engaging in debates, I probably would have said yes. In part because my favorite debates are when I've gone into like a Baptist church and debated Mike Licona, where there's 400 or 500 Baptists there, because they need to hear what I'm going to say about resurrection far more than you guys do. And so once upon a time, I would have said yes to Jubilee. I'm pretty sure that if they messaged me right now and said, hey, we'd like you to come in and do a 1v20, I would say no, because some of the same reasons Jimmy did. There are, though, some exceptions where under the right circumstances with the right conditions, I would love to do it. I just don't think I would love to do it on Jubilee, because I don't trust that their platform has anything to do with actually working towards truth and good. I think their platform is sensationalized clickbait to make money. Mm-hmm. And they're doing it by pretending that 20 flat earthers have anything worth one person listening to. They fucking don't. Go watch Simon Dan, go watch Conspiracy Cats or any of those guys. It's a waste. However,
I might do it today, having accepted that they're here now. Honestly, it's kind of like when I turned them down originally, there was a chance that the moral debate of how much they sucked was going to win. Now it's kind of like, well, what's going to do more good, turning them down or taking some of their platform for us?
Yep. Don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Continuing on, Space Barbarians. Is that right? No, that's not that's the next one. This one's $10 from Green Man Dave. Cats rule and dogs drool. I love them all, though. Well,
I'll accept it. I still think you're wrong, but I'll accept it. This is the one I liked when I saw it incoming earlier. Space Barbarian. Oh, Jimmy, are you proposing Starfleet? Look, I'm just saying Starfleet has to start with a Space Force or something like it. And, you know, if step one towards Starfleet's pretty good.
I'm double checking something, but here we go.
Wonder what branch, what would a new military branch called Trump Force be in charge of? Put answers in the chat, people. If Space Force does space, Air Force, Navy, whatever, what would Trump Force be in charge of? $10 from Bomber Fox, just showing some love. Go yiff yourself, Jimmy.
$10 from President Starscream. Make a host say something silly. Challenge accepted. Space Force is necessary to find and destroy Goblin Island, a magical island in outer space and the filthy home of the Goblin race. That rhymed. That was actually beautiful there, Starscream. A magical island in outer space, the filthy home of the Goblin race.
Now do as I command. I was trying to be, what's his face?
Command.
Joshua Everett says, Rusty Spotted Cat, they are super tiny and adorable, 3 pounds max, fully grown. I've never heard of this. I kind of want
it's actually
one.
3.5 pounds max.
Oh, wow.
It's 3.5 pounds max. But the Rusty Spotted Cat, I want to know how closely related they are to like servals and some of the other rare spotted cats that are incredibly popular. Popular in the sense of not everybody has them, but popular in the sense that cat enthusiasts want them. Like, I don't know anybody who has cats who wouldn't, under the right circumstances, love to have a serval. But they're probably wrong about it. Here we go. $10 from Alexander Canine Services. I should have been more specific, but Christians who kill in the military, in my eyes, is a contradiction with thou shalt not kill. Then you don't know what you're talking about. This is why in your eyes is irrelevant, because the Bible specifically instructs who you can and can't kill, and instructs the slaughter of entire groups and what must people do with regard to defense. When the Bible says thou shalt not kill, that is most accurately, there are exceptions, but most accurately, most commonly interpreted as thou shalt not murder. The Bible is not supportive of pacifism at all. And because God has a plan, nothing can happen that doesn't go according to God's plan. God's plan also includes leaders and knows there will be conflict. God sent his people in to slaughter people. I don't know why you would view that particular brief sentence open to translation to suggest that Christians shouldn't kill in the military. Now, I didn't kill anybody when I was in the military directly. I'm sure actions I took resulted in people's death.
By the way, a toy Chihuahua, while slightly heavier than a rusty spotted cat, a rusty spotted cat takes up significantly more space, averaging of a length of 14 to 19 inches and around 8 inches in height, whereas a toy Chihuahua on the long side will cap out at 15 inches, but is somewhere between 9 and 15 instead of 14 to 19, and their height is 5 to 8 inches. So quite a bit more space occupying. So you would have to determine, we'd have to agree on which one bigger, what you would consider bigger, the thing that takes more space or the thing that weighs more.
It's like the arguments in the snake community as to what's the biggest snake. Well, it depends. If you want the longest snake, you're going to get
anaconda.
There's the anaconda, which is going to be the biggest, like a heavy body, and then there's reticulated pythons that are going to be the longest. And hell, I might have just reversed that in my head, but you got to define what bigger is, because maybe bigger is the one you like the most.
I've been seeing some python videos that I probably need to check if they're AI or not recently, but some of them freak me the frick out. Do you know if the one that swallowed a human man was real? Because it looked, when they cut it open, I don't feel like we've trained AI to make it look like a very believable dead body coming out of I don't know though. Anyway.
So it's incredibly rare, but I think both reticulated pythons and anacondas have eaten humans, but it is not common and it is not easy. It's normally under very particular circumstances where there's somebody small and frail and not able to resist. Because generally, snakes aren't aggressive. Not even venomous snakes are generally aggressive. They are defensive and food motivated. And if you just leave them alone, they're going to leave you alone. There are very few that could look at humans and say, "Ooh, that's food." And when I say very few, I mean out of all the reticulated pythons and all of the anacondas on the planet, and maybe all of the African rock pythons because they're close, only a tiniest fraction of a percent of those ever get to be big enough where they even could consume a human under the right circumstances.
Okay.
But it has happened. And it's probably not AI, but I didn't see it, so I don't know. $10 from Atheist Mechanic. Okay, I lied about being the last super chat for the night, but it's obvious that snakes are the best pet. True. Reptiles.
The word pet is correct. I think there's a different word than pet. I think pet implies a certain thing, a mutual relationship kind of thing, shared affection, petting. You probably pet your snakes, but I don't know. I think pet implies something. I love snake, and I caught a tarantula. Unfortunately, he did expire. I knew it was going to happen soon. The fact that he wasn't burrowing when I caught him in the first place meant he was in his final weeks, but I like catching things like that, and I love seeing them and hanging out with them and stuff, but I think a pet is a different thing than a snake has the brain capacity to be.
Well, I think you are a different thing without the brain capacity to know what a pet is. But even if you're correct, that's one of the reasons why I suggested reptiles, because I guarantee you that some of our skinks and our green forest dragons and the skinks and the green forest dragons, absolutely pets. And the same thing with like some of the gargoyle and crested geckos and stuff we have.
Interesting.
They don't want to snuggle. They're just not furry, but like you should see the emerald tree skinks when Arden walks up in front of their cage, and me to a lesser extent, but mostly her. They're like, please take us out. Let us climb all over you. Please. We missed you. You know, we'd like to come out and hang out. And while my big green forest dragon, it's almost 9:00. He's asleep. He's not quite like that. He loves it and comes out. He'll sit on top of my head and, They don't snuggle. So if you're counting pets or things that snuggle,
I think,
well, birds are reptiles and birds can snuggle.
Yeah. And so I'm, there's probably not going to be a ton of agreement when we got it, but I think just as far as what we know about animal brains, I don't think I would consider anything that isn't a mammal in the category of a pet because of the capacity for, certainly you can have things that enjoy doing certain things and, excited for the opportunity to go out, recognizing the pattern of, oh, she's here, I may get a chance to explore. He's got a nice warm head, that kind of stuff. But I want to be loved.
Well, I'm getting ready.
I think, as you pointed out, though, cats are like that too. I think a pet is something that the human has an emotional attachment to and is wanting to care for. It's not about the animal having an attachment back at you.
Cats do train their humans in a way, is what it's called. But there is good reasons to believe cats, I'm undermining my argument from earlier, but that was me being silly, that cats do actually love their owners and in fact can have love. I agree.
And I think you can make a similar argument about lots of reptiles. Like it's a limitation of not being able to have access to the contents of minds. And the whole reptile brain argument is super outdated for how a reptile experiences the world. I just think that pets are about the human relationship to the animal, not the animal's relationship back at you.
Arden, we need to put up a poll. Since Jimmy is going to be the gatekeeper of the term pet, does that make him pet phobic or a pet-ophile?
Okay, let's not put up that poll. I'm your boss. I pay you. Don't put up that poll. Let's not do that one. Yeah, I don't know. I had a point, but now I've lost it, and nobody's that interested anyway.
I did that. $10 from the atheist mechanic, and one more just because. LOL, if you guys need a voice actor, I can lend my voice. Awesome. Arden,
too arrogant to hire out for that.
Chat of the day. What?
I'd be too arrogant to hire out for that. I'd assume I could do all the voice acting.
Arden, I guess we need to know for sure who won, but here's the final super chat for today for Jimmy to read.
Green Man Dave says, what's your favorite Willow? Mine is Weeping.
Mine's the one on Buffy.
True.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Atheist Mechanic won. So I met Atheist Mechanic at NanoCon. He was wearing a Zerba shirt, the Zerba Pride shirt, by the way. Get your Zerba Pride merch. It's linked in the little thingy going on your video player right now. And he made me this drawing to say "fuck you" to Jessica Doodoo McButtface. So why don't you present it? No exceptions. No Growlith. Espion.
Is this a fight that's happening somewhere in the channel I don't know much about?
Yeah, it's me in a chatter over something so dumb that it's turned into it. And this is equivalent to the Arden is pro Mayo thing, when it just means I didn't hate Mayo as much as Katie. It's a similar spiraling out inside joke.
I mean, Espion is good. Umbreon's better, but you're only off by 1.
Oh, you're just wrong. But anyway, the joke is that I'm apparently Growlith is better. But thank you to the Atheist Mechanic for that cool drawing and for, standing up for me. I appreciate it.
Will you admit that shiny Espion is trash?
No.
Green, right? Oh. You pretend shiny Espion's a lizard? We can be.
No. I think we're done, but here's what I want to say real quick. First of all, huge thanks to Jimmy for coming in and agreeing to do this. It's rare that we get to do shows together, and I always love it, and I always learn something. And I started the show off addressing a very specific issue and trying to do it in a way that was potentially both productive and forthright, and that the same protections that we tend to intuitively see with regard to human rights, with regard to sexuality, with regard to individual autonomy and boundaries, we need to make sure that we're seeing those in issues of human rights violations, and that we don't just dismiss it because, you did something first, therefore I get to go scorched earth. we're in an incredibly dangerous point in the history of the world. The United States may be officially be a failed experiment. The rule of law may not be a rule, may not be something that we have any real protections from. And therefore, not only do we need to speak up about injustice on behalf of ourselves, but we need to speak up about injustice on behalf of others. Not just because there's a poem, not just because there's a constitution, but because there's humanity. Because while we may not agree on everything that is or isn't wrong, we may not agree on whether or not it's wrong to love someone. I don't see how it's wrong to love someone, but clearly some people think you can love the wrong people. And those people who think you can love the wrong people seem to be the ones who have a very difficult time loving the people who aren't like them, the people who don't fit in with them. That's a terrible, terrible situation for the world to be in. So I'm not going to do a kumbaya, live, laugh, love. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. But if you can't at least care about the lives of people who have never done you harm, and you're willing to excuse it because you think they might do you harm in the future, you're why we're here. You're why we're broken. And you're why those of us working here on the line who are advocating for secular humanism will not stop. This cannot be the way things end. This has to be where we get together and say, we are building a community that stands up and says no. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks to the Super Chats. Thanks to Arden for producing the show. You can find out more about all of our shows. For example, tomorrow, the Transatlantic Call-In Show is on at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, because that's what PM means in afternoon. But there's also the Sunday Show, the Sunday Show After Dark, Skeptalk on Mondays, Chewed Gum on Tuesdays. I'll be back next Wednesday. I'm not completely sure, but who'll be on with me then? But don't forget to go to patreon.com. Deconstruction Zone, Justin, yes. Don't forget about patreon.com/calltheline and linemerch.com. And be sure you check out Patreon, because we're going to be adding more stuff to make your lives more fun. Maybe.